Live on YouTube. Welcome everyone. In this entire live discussion, we will discuss the physics, chemistry, math, bio, the entire paper of IAT 2025 and how, like I will also give you an estimate about what SciAstra will be doing for you coming forward. Like we will discuss each of the subject and mentors will let you know from where the questions in IIT examination came from. The question that have been discussed in your classes, the questions, some of the questions directly came from the mock test model paper that we conducted, exactly same question. Similar kind of questions that have been given to you in the mock test came in the actual examination. So all the analysis of the entire 2025 paper we will be doing in this session. So before that, I will go through the entire sentiment about this paper IIT 2025 as a whole of each of the subject. So most of the students find the biology, we will compare this paper with the 2024 paper. So a general sentiment that we found out was, like when we visited the examination center last year, the faces were more sad. This year the faces were more happy, and that gives a general idea that many of the students were able to like the paper was in the expected line, it was not an unexpected paper. So the difficulty level of 24, although many students have even suggested that the difficulty level have gone up by 5 to 10%, but what our common analysis analyzing each of the subjects in general is that the difficulty level have not increased much and it is on the similar line of IIT 2024. Some of the subjects are 5 to 10% tougher, some of them are even easier than the last year. So the breakage of each of the subjects the mentors will be discussing in this interaction session, in this in this complete paper discussion of IIT 2025. So IIT is done, you will be worried about what will be the probable cutoff. Most of the queries will be only for the cutoffs. So the cutoffs, we do not want to make any random predictions. Our prediction will be completely data based, analyzing each of the surveys that we are conducting for you. So one survey we have conducted that have given us an idea about the difficulty of the examination. We are just waiting for the response sheet to come out because it will give us the exact idea about how many marks the students are getting this year compared to the previous year. We have been doing these surveys since last 4 years, and because of these surveys our predictions have been that much accurate. So we will try to do the detailed survey, we are doing that and make the best cutoff video, the most authentic cutoff video possible from all our capabilities. So we do not want to make any hurry about making that cutoff video. So we are just waiting for the response sheet to come out, then we will roll out the survey and we will request each one of you to fill out that survey where you will let us know what marks you are getting in this IIT 2025 examination. After that we will be able to predict your cutoff for each of the IISers for each of the categories, and we will be doing it as soon as possible as the response sheet comes out. So you will be getting the response sheet very soon in 1 to 2 days. It have been in the last previous years, like usually 1 to 2 days they take and they will give you the complete response sheet, all the answers that you have marked, and please make sure that you download, you view that response sheet because after some time you will not have the access to view these response sheet. So for the students, for the cutoffs, one general idea I can give you, like the cutoffs will be probably greater than the last year. This is bound to happen and we are very much sure doing the initial surveys that the cutoffs from last year they will increase, but how much they will increase we will be only able to make this prediction after your response sheet comes out. Okay. So any question about this is my marks and what will be my chances of getting this iiser, of getting any iiser, will be not able to entertain at this moment. But yeah, like general assumption you can take off, like the cutoff will be greater than the last year. So now the IIT thing is over. We will do the complete discussion for all the students who are not Hindi speaking, who do not come from a Hindi speaking population. Especially for them, this session we are conducting on our main channel. We have already conducted a complete discussion. You can also watch that. So for all the English students, we will be doing this session, and we have launched our next mock test series, next everything series. Whatever have happened to IIT, there is nothing going back and we cannot change anything, but we have time. We have more than 20 days for next examination. All the years we have seen our students, many of them who have not cleared IIT, they crack nest, they go to iiser, and you know, I am also a iiser alumni, Vivek Bhaiya is also a iiser alumni. iiser equally competes with top of the iisers. Many students even leave iiser Kolkata, Pune to join iiser. So even if you are getting any iiser, we will recommend you to prepare for next examination, and let us give our best to next examination, get into iiser CBS. And for all the students who have their IACS examination, they should also well prepare for the examination, and we have also launched mock test series for your practice. So these are the things, and we will not think about drop at this moment because we have more examination to come, and for all the mistakes that we have done, we will try to rectify that, and after that we will plan about whether we have to take the drop or not. So until the next examination, do not think about taking a drop, whatever condition you are having. So now I will like to invite Parth Bhaiya. He will discuss the entire chemistry paper, and he will go through the entire paper with the class notes, with the mock test that we have made, and how much predictable was the paper and how much SciAstra was able to prepare you for this examination. So Parth sir, now it's over to you.
Thank you, sir. Hi, guys. I hope that all of you are quite satisfied by the section of chemistry because the paper was relatively easy, especially the organic section was lenient on you guys. And what I have observed, what I have came to the conclusion after interacting with so many students, that yeah, chemistry section got few of the theoretically questions that are supposed to be remembered only. Not such any deep concept was there, but there were few questions that were similar kind of questions that are usually asked in IIT exams, right? So I know that this exam was a bit different of what you might have seen in the past years, and there was one question of thermodynamics that might have shocked you completely. But don't worry, we will just in a moment we will discuss all of them. So yeah, don't think about marks too much. Whatever you have done it. Now whatever result will come, it will come. So just meanwhile just enjoy the time window and prepare on the while for the next exam if you are giving that. And if you're not giving that, whatever exam you are going to give, just prepare either for that. And if you are not going to give any other further examination, just enjoy the life, guys. So we will start the discussion from the question number 1. That was a very basic theoretical question. Which one of the following statements best describes the acidic basic amphoteric nature of zinc oxide and calcium oxide? So this is the fact that everyone from the 10th class might have been aware of, that the oxides of alkali and alkaline earth metal are basic in nature, right? Basic in nature. So basically, following the elimination approach, if you see, option number B is saying calcium oxide is amphoteric, option C is saying calcium oxide is amphoteric, and option D is saying calcium oxide is basic. So these two options are incorrect probably, right? Because we know that yeah, calcium oxide is not amphoteric, it is basic. Now this is the part where the knowledge comes. If you know, you know. If you don't know, don't worry, it happens, right? So if we talk about zinc, mercury and aluminium, at least remember these, that the oxides of these three elements are amphoteric in nature, right? So zinc oxide is amphoteric, and that's why the answer was option number A. There was no such concept that we should be aware of, it is just a fact that we should be like aware of while we are dealing with the class 10th or class 11th or 12th whatsoever, right? Since now main group is not a part of your chemistry, that becomes difficult for you to answer these type of questions, but anyways, get used to, right? Which among the following processes are associated with the increasing bond order but no change in diamagnetic or paramagnetic behavior, right? So for this probably you might see different approaches. One is that shortcut approach that most of the people follow, that okay, 14 electrons and all those even electrons are diamagnetic or paramagnetic, or those short tricks, right? But however, I am not fond of that tricks much. What I usually believe is that we should quickly draw the MO diagram, right? Or we should at least be aware of the outermost MO diagrams of the species, so that we could answer the question genuinely, right? Even if the difficulty of that question goes up a little bit high, then also there is a probability that we will be able to answer. Now see, we all know that if we talk about N2, right, we talk about N2, then the final electron lies in which orbital? 2pz, sigma 2pz, right? Because there is this sp mixing, right? We will be seeing shortly the MO diagram of N2, but right now this is what you should remember, right? After studying the MO diagrams again and again, and I have told you many times that please remember the outermost MO diagram of all the, at least all the species that are basically covered in your NCERT at least, right? So sigma 2pz is the outermost orbital where you have completely filled this sigma 2pz, and in O2, on the other hand, since everyone knows that O2 is paramagnetic, because it was the main drawback of VBT that VBT was not able to explain. In O2, your two electrons lies in the pi star 2px 2py orbital, like this, if you remember, right? So this is what all you needed to know. Now when you go now see this is O2, and this is the final MO diagram of the, see, 1s and 2s cancels out each other. That is why we are not talking about those 8 electrons. Remaining 8 electrons, if you fill them, you will get a outermost MO diagram like this. And after removing, now they are saying that there are two processes that has happened. One is that O2 has removed one electron, and then O2 has gained one electron. In both of them, you will get basically paramagnetic species technically, right? See, if you remove one electron, still you will get one electron remaining in the pi star orbital, due to which paramagnetism will arise, right? So that is your O2 plus. See here, O2 plus is paramagnetic, right? These are the, by the way, class notes. That is why I have put up it here, just to give you a glimpse that how important class notes are, right? So paramagnetic, O2 plus is paramagnetic due to this one electron, and the bond order is increased by 0.5 because of the electron getting released from the pi star orbital, right? So that is why the bond order is 2.5. So now the bond order has increased when you are going from O2 to O2 plus. But when you are going from O2 to O2 minus, the electron is actually coming in this pi star orbital. Additional electron will come here, right, in the pi star orbital, and whenever an electron comes in the pi star orbital, what happens is the reduction in the bond order by the factor of 0.5. So that is why you can say that while dealing with the O2 to O2 minus, we are actually reducing the bond order. What they are asking is the case where we are increasing the bond order. That is why this is not going to be the answer. Now the only one left is this N2. So when you do the postmortem of this case, you find out that as soon as your electron is going to be released from sigma 2pz, since it is a bonding molecular orbital, when your electron is going to be removed from the sigma bonding orbital, your bond order will be basically reduced to 2.5, right? So it is also the case where the reduction of bond order has taken place. So this is the only case where your bond order has been increased and your paramagnetic character was retained. That is why option second is the only answer, right? Now Moving to the next one. These are the MO diagrams of N2 and all the species that you can take a reference for, reference from basically. So these are the class notes screenshot. Now, what is the value of E naught? Fe3 plus to Fe 0, the standard reduction potential values of Fe3 plus to 2 plus couple is 0.77 volt, and for 2 plus to 0 it is minus 0.44 volt, right? Now, to solve this type of question, you remember there is a classic approach in the Hess law that we have studied, that whenever we want to calculate data for a particular type of reactions and we have been given the data of the other reactions, then we use those other reactions, linearly add, subtract them, solve them to make equivalent, make them equivalent to the reaction for which the data has been asked, and then calculating the data by just linearly solving the quantity. So this is the same approach with a slight difference that we will see shortly. So this type of question was supposed to be done in a way that, okay, so we have three processes. The process that was asked is this: when you basically allow this Fe3 plus to gain 3 electrons to make Fe 0, your E naught we don't know, X, right? Now, the other processes that are given is when you gain 1 electron and you transform this plus 3 to plus 2, your E naught is 0.77 volt. On the other end, when this Fe plus 2 gains 2 electrons, you get Fe 0. E naught for this is minus 0.44 volt, right? Now, simply adding this, you will get this, right? So just add them. So what you will get as Fe2 plus is cancelled out by Fe2 plus, and what you will get is ultimately Fe plus 3. This 2 plus 1 becomes 3, and you will get ultimately Fe 0. So yeah, this is the catch, that here if you are thinking that E naught which you want to find out basically, which is X technically. So let me write it as X, right? So this X, if you are thinking that this X will be E naught 1 plus E naught 2, this is here where you have done the mistake, because we know that EMFs are not the additive properties. If you want the addition of EMF to happen, you have to utilize the formula, the relation of its value with the delta G values. So instead of writing this, what we use is delta Gx is equals to delta G1 plus delta G2. For delta G, we know that the standard formula of delta G naught obviously is minus NF E naught cell. So here it will be minus E naught. So this X process which you want to calculate, it has N is equals to 3 because 3 electrons are involved, NF X, that you have to calculate, right? X. Now delta G1, the first process, you have minus electrons involved is 1, F, and E value is 0.77. In the second case, minus, you can say delta G, you have just added these, so plus, and you have this minus of NF, N is 2 in this process, F, and E naught cell, the value of this E naught cell is minus 0.44 volts. So please do not forget to put this minus here, otherwise you will get different answer. So it will be like minus 3Fx minus 0.77F, and it becomes minus minus plus. So ultimately you get a plus, you can say 0.88F, right? So if you see, F will be cancelled out in all of these, and what you will get is X equivalent to certainly you will get minus 0.04 volt. Actually you will not get 0.04. When you will solve this, you will get something which is equivalent to 0.036, but when you round off this, you will get 0.04 volt. So this is how you have to calculate the answer, and this, in this way, this A option was correct. And surprisingly, one of our mentors this year, not just this year, right? So he taught the same question to the classes, and I know that you will relate it better because he was teaching the English batch, right? So I guess the students can relate that this is the exactly same question that he taught Parth Joshi sir, and you should be thankful to him, right? Because not even the values were different, right? The same entire question was the same and the answer was also the same, right? So this is what mentor can do for you, right? So please follow class notes very sincerely. That is why I usually say it again and again. Now moving to the next question, what are the correct orders of stability for the following compounds? Here you might have came across different approaches while discussing the paper. You might have seen that there people are giving different approaches, right? Maybe all of them are correct, but you have to follow only one, right? So what I feel, so that the correct approach is you can use Poisson's rule here, because we know that the thermal stability, see, whenever they are asking about the stability na, they are asking about thermal stability. So thermal stability is the property of solids. So thermal stability technically for solids, if we talk about, depends on the strength of the lattice, and strength of the lattice depends on the nature of the bond. So we know that thermal stability of ionic compounds is more than that of covalents, and to determine the degree of covalent character, what we use, beta, we use Poisson's rule. Just apply that. We know that in if VF5 and VCl5, since the cation is similar and the oxidation state is also similar, so the entire thing comes on the anion. Since the anion is smaller in VF5, that is fluorine, its covalent character is going to be less, because as per Poisson's rule, the bigger the anion, the bigger the polarizability of that anion is, and larger will be the covalent character. So this is more covalent in that sense, and if it is more covalent, then its thermal stability is going to be less than VF5. And similarly here, since iodine is a larger anion, it is going to be more covalent than CuCl2. So that is why the order of thermal stability is going to follow the same thing, that CuCl2 is greater than CuI2 in the sense of thermal stability. So remember this, right? Now, however, in this case, you can also use the concept of steric hindrance, that this vanadium pentafluoride is basically trigonal bipyramidal, and trigonal bipyramidal geometry, you cannot have that big chlorine atoms, right? So it is not going to give you a very sustainable stable geometry. So that can also tell you, right, that VCl5 is going to be less stable as a structure itself. But anyways, yeah. Now this was a pretty nice question. Might be confusing, might be quite fearful to you often. Consider the following reaction scheme, and that's a very nice way of asking the simple concept. And now I am feeling very happy that IAT is no longer an exam which asks you direct questions. The difficulty level is now being elevated each year, and this is what the essence of a competitive exam should look like, right? Because the competitive exam is meant to give you the perspective of the subject so deep that when you get to the research institutes like IISers and NIISers, you should feel the difference, that what is the difference between really understanding the subject and how difficult it sometimes to be the master of a subject or a topic, right? Now see, consider the following reaction scheme, that we have a complex of chromium which says that the general formula is CrCl3 in 6H2O. So we do not know that which out of these ligands are inside the coordination sphere and which one is acting as a counter ion. Now understand this, that they have given you an info that while treating it with excess AgNO3, only 1 mole of AgCl is precipitated per mole of P. It means clearly that out of the coordination sphere there was only 1 chlorine, because we know this from very beginning that only those chlorides are precipitated by AgNO3 which are outside the coordination sphere, right? So only 1 Cl is outside, so what remains inside is 2 Cl, and the remaining octahedral sphere will be justified by the 4 water molecules. So this is what the octahedral complex should look like actually. So this is your P, right? This is your P. Now understand one thing, that this is your P, and what they are saying, that we treated this with excess ammonia and concentrated obviously. Now it leads you to complex Q, And when this complex Q is again treated with AgNO3, you now are getting 3 moles of Cl, means 3 Cl are there outside the coordination sphere now, right? So whatever complex this Q is there, you have 3 Cl outside. It means that all the inside, all that was inside is actually replaced by ammonia, because it is in excess and it is in concentrated manner. So it will replace both the chlorine and the H2O, and what the complex will be like is NH3 whole 6, right? NH3 whole 6, this type. Now this is your P and this is your Q. Now you can easily answer the question whatever is asked on the basis of this, right? So what they are asking, they are actually playing around two statements which are basically contradictory in each of these 4 options. So P shows geometrical isomerism and absorbs light of higher wavelength. So basically all you have to justify is that which one shows geometrical isomerism or which one not, or maybe both, and which one absorbs higher wavelength. That's all. Now see, analyze these two complexes. This shows geometrical isomerism because it will show cis trans, right? It is the complex of type Ma2B4, and I told you that this type of complexes shows geometrical isomerism. Now this, since it is a completely symmetrical molecule, you cannot justify cis trans in this, so no geometrical isomerism, because it is simply the molecule of type Ma6, so it does not show geometrical isomerism, right? Now if we talk about the wavelength that they will absorb while doing DD transition, to that we have to understand one thing, that here we have basically water as a ligand and chlorine as a ligand. Here we have all the nitrogen as a ligand, and as per the spectrochemical series, we know that nitrogens are more dominating as far as their ligand nature is considered as compared to this chlorides and the water molecules. So we know that this one is having low delo, and this one is having high delo, because obviously the splitting will be higher here, high delo, and if the splitting is higher, it will absorb the energy high corresponding to high frequency and to the lower wavelength. So higher wavelength will be absorbed by the higher lambda will be absorbed by the one which is the weaker complexes due to the presence of weak field ligand. So obviously P is the one having higher wavelengths. So P shows geometrical isomerism, true, and absorbs light of higher wavelength than Q, yeah, true. So that is why this option was correct, right? And now if you analyze all the other options, you will see that drinking coffee is sometimes very important when you are dealing with the questions. How many beta hydrogens are present in 2-methyl-3-phenyl pentane 1-ul? See, this is a very simple question. Simple IUPAC. So all you have to draw is first of all a pentane structure. So C, 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 C and C. 1-ul means obviously your aldehyde, and aldehyde is always on the terminal position. At the second carbon you have a methyl group and you have a hydrogen obviously, and at the third carbon you have a phenyl group and obviously a hydrogen is there. So one who have drawn this have solved the question 60%. Now all you have to count is the beta hydrogen. Beta, alpha, beta, gamma, theta, delta and all these things basically are seen on the basis of the most prior functional group, and here the most prior functional group is your aldehyde. So the carbon next to this aldehydic group is alpha. Do not please commit the mistake of counting this carbon as alpha, because this is itself the part of the functional group. So whatever carbon comes next to the functional group is considered as alpha. So this is alpha and this is your technically beta, and this is your beta. So how many beta hydrogens are there? These 3 beta hydrogens are there, and this another 1 beta hydrogen is there. So you have total of 4 beta hydrogens, right? I hope that you are able to calculate this. Now bunch of reactions, and they are asking that which one of them will not give you aldehyde as the product. Now see, in the class itself I told you this many times that whenever you have a RCOCl type of a group or any sort of carbonyl which has a leaving group and you treat it with RMGX or R2CD, there is a difference. Since RMgX, due to the presence of magnesium center, is very reactive, R attacks the carbonyl 2 times. In the first time, it tend to eliminate the leaving group, and in the next time, it tend to form the alcohol. But when you are using the dialkyl cadmium, which is basically due to the presence of a cadmium center, is lesser reactive, attacks only one time onto the carbonyl having leaving group, making the possibility of the structure where the leaving group just leaves and your carbonyl retains its entity and no alcohol is such formed, right. So that is why if you treat this R2CD with this RCOCl, you get a ketone with the single attack. On the other end, if you use some RMgX, you get a alcohol ultimately, right. So now there's this example is also given, the mechanism is also given, said that this R minus from R2CD comes and attacks here on the carbon, and this pi shifts up, and as soon as this pi comes, kicks out this chlorine, and what you get is a ketone, right. So this is the example that I told you. Even the reagent is same, right, PHCH2CD, and what you see is the attack of PHCH2 only one time. So here you will get ketone, not aldehyde. So this is obviously your correct option. However, I would like to discuss on the other one also. This is simply Rosenmund reduction. This is Rosenmund, right. This is Rosenmund reduction, and what you get here is obviously PHCHO. This is the classic reaction. This is nitrile, and this is Stephen's reduction followed by hydrolysis. So what does this Stephen's reduction does? You will see here, and all of these questions basically came out of the notes. So that is why I'm again and again saying that notes are very important. So whenever you use this nitrile and you have SnHCl or SnCl2HCl, you get this imine, right? And when you basically hydrolyze it, you get technically what you get is aldehyde. So that is why this process also will give you the aldehyde. And the last one is Itard reaction. This is nothing but Itard reaction, and we know that Itard reaction treating this toluene with CrO2 Cl2 CH2 gives you an intermediate, right, and then that intermediate upon hydrolysis gives you the PHCHO. So here also you will get aldehyde. So this is the only process where you get ketone, right. Now moving to the next part. What are the major products formed in the following reaction sequence? Very simple question in fact. So you have this pH, ET and Me. When you treat it with ozone and followed by zinc dust, this is completely ozonolysis, right? Complete ozonolysis. What you get is the cleavage of this double bond, ultimately giving you two carbonyls. One is your aldehyde and the other one is a ethyl methyl substituted ketone, right. This is what you will get after ozonolysis. And when you treat it with PHMgBr excess, so can you realize that they have asked you two questions dealing with the organometallic compound RMgX and R2CD, and that is why I told you in the revision classes also, in the 50 most important series also, in one shot also, that in aldehyde, ketone and carboxylic acid you should be very much clear about the action of RMgX and R2CD on the carbonyls, right. So yeah, so PHMgBr, this PH minus is going to attack, since there are two equivalents now and none of them has leaving groups, so one will attack here, one will attack here, and in both of them what you will get is the corresponding alcohol that you can get, right. So here you will get a 2 degree alcohol and here you will get a 3 degree alcohol, methyl ethyl phenyl substituted alcohol simply. So what you will get is this, right. So option number A is the correct one. I don't think so that you are able to see the tick. Yeah, so A was the correct answer. Now the very simple question, you have a PHCH2CH2CH2CN using dibal H. Dibal H actually selectively reduces the CN to basically CH double bond NH, right, and ultimately upon hydrolysis it will give you aldehyde. And when you do this zinc mercury concentrated HCl, you know that the aldehydes, the ketones and the alcohols are ultimately reduced to hydrocarbons. So what you will get, this PHCN when you treat it with dibal H reducing agent, diisobutyl aluminium hydride. This is the structure that is given here, right? H minus donor. So pH CH2 CH2 CH double bond NH for time, and upon hydrolysis if you get this, and then if you do, you know, zinc mercury concentrated HCl, so you know you are going to get the ultimately hydrocarbon, that is CH3. So this is the product, right? So remember that this formation of OH and CHO will be confusing to you, but remember that concentrated HCl in presence of zinc mercury ultimately gets you the hydrocarbon, and this is the first and the foremost reactions that we study in hydrocarbons chapter. Now compound first undergoes hydroboration oxidation reaction with BH3 whole twice, that is B2H6, ultimately the same thing, by the treatment of H2O2 and aqueous NaOH to produce another compound second, means simply hydroboration oxidation is there, which upon oxidation with CrO3 gives 2,3-dimethyl cyclohexanone as the product. So the final product is that 2,3-dimethyl cyclohexanone. So we will back calculate it. Now this has been formed by the treatment of CrO3. Now we all know that CrO3 is oxidizing agent, probably might have oxidized the secondary alcohol to this ketone, right? So it might be possible that, in fact it is the only possibility, this is what going to give you this, right? Am I right? So CrO3, right? Now how can you form this? This can be possible by either making this, you may think of a double bond here, or you may think, remove this, you may think of a double bond here. Now which one of them is a correct possibility? That depends. You are actually applying hydroboration oxidation, and in that we use anti-Markovnikov addition, and when we are dealing with the anti-Markovnikov addition, we know that this is the less hindered one, and in this alkene this is relatively less hindered. So if you did hydroboration on this, you will not get alcohol here, you will get alcohol here, which basically will not give you finally this 2,3-dimethyl cyclohexanone, right? So it means that this possibility is incorrect, and the pi bond was here actually, and that's how when you do the hydroboration oxidation you will get this, and then CrO3 will give you this. So this is your reactant. So very nice example of how to calculate yeah, how to back calculate your organic reaction, right? So very nice way of asking the question, right? Now this was the question that might have been quite tricky to you, so I'm going to solve this question at the last because this is quite lengthy question, right? So it will consume 5 minutes approx, right? So I do not want to run in the rush. So first of all, I have also left a page blank for it because it is quite lengthy in the calculation. We will first see the other questions because these are simple. At a particular temperature, the magnitude of the rate constant of a reaction is 5 into 10 raised to the power minus 5, and the unit of the pre-exponential factor of the Arrhenius equation for this reaction is mole per liter inverse minute inverse. Which of the following plots is the correct representation for this reaction? R naught is the initial concentration, T half is the half life of the reaction. Very simple question, right? Now see, we know that as per Arrhenius equation, K is equals to A e raised to the power minus EA by RT, and this as such will not give you any unit, or whatever unit of K you are having, you will have the same unit for the pre-exponential factor. So pre-exponential factor, this is A, and the unit for this is given already, mole liter inverse minute inverse, and we all know that this is the unit of zero order for K, zero order K. How do we know? Because there is a general formula for K, I told you many times, general formula of K. If you know the N, the formula is liter n minus 1 mole 1 minus n time inverse. Time is in minute here, so you just simply put minute inverse, that is common in all of them, and when you put 0 here n, right, at n is equals to 0, what you get is the same unit as they are saying that this pre-exponential factor is having. It means that the k is nothing but 0 order. So you get liter inverse mole 1, right. So this is the unit that you are getting, right. So this is a clearly a 0 order reaction, and once the reaction is 0 order, you also know that there is another general formula that says that T half is inversely proportional to A naught ki power or R naught power n minus 1. If n is 0 that you have calculated just now, T half is directly proportional, because it will be like 1 upon A naught raised to the power minus 1, so it will be A naught power 1, right. So it is going to be a direct proportionality passing through the origin. So T half versus A naught for the 0 order reaction will be like this straight line, right. So these are again basically, so that is why the correct option was this A. So A was the correct option. This 3 possibilities are cancelled. What is the time period of revolution of an electron in the fourth Bohr orbit of helium plus? Very nice type of question. Probably I was not expecting that they are going to ask about the time period, because this is usually the topic which student skips, right. And yeah, but now Bohr's radius, they have given you 52.9 picometer, and the mass of electron is there, the Planck's constant is there. However, we will not be needing them. You will see this. What we want to calculate is time, and time is distance upon speed. This we know. And to calculate the distance, what we as the formula to calculate the distance of the electron actually is 2 pi Rn, where Rn is the distance from the nucleus, which is the radius of that electronic orbit, right. So now we know that Rn is 52.9 n square by z picometer, right. Keep it as it is. Now and now other thing is speed. So how we are going to calculate speed? So for that there was a formula. If we might have known this formula, the calculation becomes easy. So the formula was 2.18 into 10 raised to the power 6 meter per second multiplied by z by n. So obviously you have to, you can place this unit later on so that you might not get confused with it. So you get this z by n meter per second, right. Now remember that this is in meter, so you have to use this Rn also in meter. So 52.9 into 10 raised to the power minus 12 meter. Now this is converted into meter, right, and you have this n square by z. Now this is in meter, so now we can use the both things in the calculation of time period. So time is distance, that is basically 2 pi Rn. Rn is basically 52.9 into 10 raised to the power minus 12 n square by z, and into this divided by the speed, which is 2.18 into 10 raised to the power 6 into z by n. So this n goes upside, you get the final formula 2 pi 52.9 10 raised to the power minus 12 ultimately n cube by z square, and at the bottom you get 2.18 into 10 raised to the power 6. Solving this will be give you, now what is n? Fourth orbit. And what is z? Helium plus 2. So now you know z, n and all these constants, so you will easily calculate the time, which will be somewhere around 2.48 into 10 raised to the power minus 15 seconds. Why seconds? Because you have used the speed in meter per second, so that second inverse is going to flip up and give you the seconds. Now this we know that 10 raised to the power minus 15 second is equal to femtosecond, right, femtosecond. Now this femtosecond is t is equals to 2.48 fm, femtosecond. So that is why this was the answer. Now the dipole moment of 3 AB3 type molecules 1, 2 and 3 are measured to be 0, d, 0.2 d and 1.5 d respectively. Which of the one, matlab order batana hai, we have to tell the order of these 3 given, that which one of them is which one, right. Now we all know that BF3, due to the cancellation of the the net dipole moment because of the resultant cancels out each other, mu is 0 because it is having inversion symmetry I, right? And whatever species or structures have I in their structure, inversion symmetry, or they are basically symmetrical about the center point, they are always non-polar, mu 0. So obviously this is the one which is first here because the first one has the dipole moment 0, right? So this option is again incorrect. Now the second option could be NF3 or NH3, which one has the higher dipole moment? This is the classic NCRT question that everyone who passes 11th class knows this, right? I know. So we know that in the case of this NH3, the bond moment is upside and the lone pair moment is also always upside. So net dipole moment, if it is x, in case of NF3 however, the bond moment is downside because of the fluorine being more electronegative, and the lone pair moment is always upside. So the net moment is y. We know that x is greater than y because these both are getting added because of the same direction, and these are going to get cancelled out because of the opposite directions. So that is why x is greater than y. So we know that the dipole moment of NF3 is technically going to be 0.2d lesser than that of NH3. So that is why option A was the correct one, right? Now moving to the last question. Technically, matlab, this is the last question. We have one more question left to discuss. This is a completely theoretical question. Even I was surprised that how come they have asked this question. But yeah, I told you in the one shot also that please revise the reactions among cell and batteries. I told you that only thing that you have to be taking care of is the lead storage battery, the reactions in the lead storage battery. I told you that. During the charging and discharging of the lead battery, a lead anode and a grid of lead packed with PbO2 as cathode and an excess solution of H2SO4 as an electrolyte, which of the following redox reaction do not occur, right? So this is the direct screenshot from NCRT which says that what are the three reactions that are usually occurring in a lead storage battery. One is where this lead from 0th oxidation state goes to +2. The other one is where this lead from +4 goes to +2, and then there is another one where lead combined in 0 and +4 ultimately converts to +2, right? Now see, there is no process where lead +4 is getting converted to lead 0. So that is the only reaction which is not going to happen, which usually do not happen in the lead storage battery. So that was the answer, but here you can see that +2 to +4 is there, right? +2 to +4 is there, this one. However, the reverse of the reaction means that they are basically playing around charging and discharging, that's all. This and this, maybe you will find out the difference in the direction. Suppose here they are saying that lead +2 converts to lead +4. Here they are saying that at cathode lead +4 converts to lead +2. So this is just because of the difference in the charging and discharging, and they have mentioned it that the charging and discharging both can be considered. So that is why this and this and this, all three are the correct options. Matlab, are the reactions that are usually there, right, in the lead storage battery. So all these three reactions are there, right? Maybe you will find the flipping of them because of the charging discharging. So that is not the concern. Now the question that we all were traumatized for an instant was this: thermodynamics, right? The first thing that the chapter is itself thermodynamics, right? And the second thing, the most difficult questions in the paper, question in the paper was itself from this chapter. So making this question extra difficult. Now, however, this question can be sort of a confusion for a lot of students, right? Because this is a quite tricky language that they have used. Now understand this question, what they are saying. The work done when 1 mole of an ideal gas, so N is 1, whatever information you are, whatever information you are getting, it is better if you just, write it down. Guys, sometimes it happens that, so N is equals to 1 is given, right? And at constant temperature, so T is constant. So isothermal process, right? So you can just write it down, isothermal. Now, they are saying that, let me just read the question. The work done when 1 mole of an ideal gas expands at constant temperature T from volume V to 2V in 2 equal steps of volume in a linear fashion, the work done is 7 by 12 RT. The total work done is 7 by 12 RT, means whatever work you have done in the expansion of a gas from V to 2V in 2 equal steps, for example, that will be V to 1.5V, and then from 1.5V to 2V is the 7 by 12 RT. How much more work would be done if the gas expands in the 3 steps? We all know that as we increase the steps in the work, the overall magnitude of the work also increases, because that is a path function, right? And that is why in reversible, since there are infinite number of steps, we get the maximum work done, right? So now, first of all, we will solve the case 1 and see if we could get something useful from it. So case 1 is that you have this pressure axis, this is volume axis. You have, suppose this is your initial volume V, this is your final volume 2V, and you are getting there in 2 steps and equal steps in equal volume. And linear fashion means that you will follow, see, linear fashion itself means that you are going to get through the irreversible manner, not the reversible manner, because that will not be a linear approach otherwise, right? So we say first we got to 3 by 2V, exactly half, and then exactly half we covered in the second step, because they are saying that 2 equal steps. And similarly, the pressure will vary. If the initial volume is P, the initial pressure will be P. If the second volume in this mid section is 3 by 2V, the pressure will be exactly 2 by 3V, because we know that at constant T and N, P and V are inversely related to each other. So there is no need to write PV is equals to nRT and calculate every time the P, because RT say RT will be cancelled out anyhow. So you can just use empirical formula that if the volume is 3 by 2V, the pressure will be 2 by 3P, not VP. And as soon as your pressure volume goes 2V, your pressure goes P by 2. Now, this is the point. Just matching them because I want to give you a clear idea of the corresponding PV. Now, the work done in all these 2 steps, work done total will be equal to, suppose this is step A and this is step B, so it will be equal to work done in A plus work done in B, right? Work done in irreversible process is minus P external delta V, and P external is the P final actual में, right? So now minus P external dV. So first write delta V, 3 by 2V, that is the final volume here, minus V, right? And then what is the P external? That is the final pressure where the final expansion has took place. So it is your 2 by 3P. Again then minus P external dV. So dV is 2V minus 3 by 2V, because the second step may you have basically increased the pressure from 3 by 2V to 2V. So final minus initial. P external will be the one which is the final pressure of this stage, that is P by 2. Solving this, what you will get na, WT, you will get basically 7 by 12 minus 7 by 12 PV, right? You can just simply solve this by taking out things common, and what you will get is 7 by 12 PV, right? Now, what they have given, but they have given that work done in this case is technically 7 by 12 RT. It implies that this RT is equals to minus PV. If you compare this with this, what you will get is minus PV is RT, right? So this is the important conversion that now you will use to calculate the next part. The next part is the calculation of work when we use the 3-step expansion. Again, drawing the graph just to give you a clear idea of what is happening here. So you are ultimately going from V to 2V via one more step. So basically you are saying that in 3 equal steps we are going to expand the gas. So if you are going from V to 2V, you are actually going in 3 steps. V to 1.33 V, then 1.33 V to 1.6666 V, and then 1.66 V to 1.999 V, that is close to 2, right? That is how you are going to divide 1 in 3 parts. Right? So this becomes 4 by 3 V, and the next stoppage is 5 by 3 V. So suppose this is your A prime, this is your B prime, and this work is your C prime. So your work done total here, work done prime total is work done A prime plus work done B prime plus work done C prime, and what is this again? Minus P external dV. So you have to use the pressures also. That corner part is not allowing me to write P, it is showing me ego, so I can also show mine. So this is how we will now see the corresponding pressure. So this V will have the highest pressure, smallest P, right, corresponding. Then this have a lower value of P certainly, which will be like, okay, 3 by 4 P, and then this will be like even lower value of the pressure, which will be 3 by 5 P, and the last one again is the simple P by 2, right? Just an additional one step. Writing it in similar way, P external dV. So writing the dV for this first process is 4 by 3 V minus V. P external will be the one which is at the final step, that is 3 by 4 P minus, again doing the same thing, dV for the second step, that is 5 by 3 V minus 4 by 3 V, and the second P external will be the final of this, so it will be 3 by 5 P, and then doing the delta P for the last step, that is 2 V minus 5 by 3 V, and the P external is P by 2. Now again solving this, see, minus P V can be taken common. Additionally, if you try to see, all these internal terms will give you 1 by 3. Just solve it. 4 by 3 minus 1 will give you 1 by 3. This will also give you 5 by 3 minus 4 by 3 will give you basically 1 by 3. 2 minus 5 by 3 will also give you 1 by 3. So you can actually take this 1 by 3 common also. What you will get now is inside what you will be left with is, what will be left? Now if you have calculated this, what you will be left is 3 by 4 from this side and plus 3 by 5 from this side and 1 by 2 from this side, right, minus PV by 3 has been taken common. So what you will get ultimately is, if you take the LCM, you will get 20 and followed by this 4, so 15 plus you will get here how much, 5, 4, 4 3 are 12, and what you will get here is 10. So here solving this ultimately will give you PV by 3 into 20, and here you will get 37. So WT prime means the work done that was there in the 3-step expansion from getting V to 2V is minus PV into 37 by 60, and we know minus PV RT, and that was the point now we derived it in the last slide. So minus PV is RT, so what we will get WT prime as is 37 by 60 RT. Now what they are asking is the difference, that extra amount of work that you have done when you basically expand the gas in 3 steps with respect to the case when you expand the same gas within the same volume range in 2 steps. So the difference will be WT prime minus WT. WT prime was 37 by 60 RT minus WT was 7 by 12 RT. 60 the LCM, 37 RT minus obviously 5, 12 5 is 16, so 5 7 is 35 RT. So what you get is 2 RT by 60, and ultimately the work done difference that they are asking is 1 by 30 RT, and that is how after investing 15 minutes of your paper you were supposed to solve this question. However, this is the point that they should not have been given this much calculation oriented question, but I hope that now you have understood how to basically this question was supposed to be solved. And this was all about your your IAT 2025 exam chemistry section. And let me take you quickly to the starting slide and let me give you a glimpse that okay, if you are getting however, predicting the safe marks is not correct right now, as your Akhil Bhaiya just told you in the beginning that once the cutoff comes, then only things will be quite transparent. So I hope that you have enjoyed this discussion. Now I would like to call your lovely Pookie Bhaiya to please come and just quickly go through the paper. This first of all I have to save na. So just let me quickly save this so that we get, just give me 1 minute. Export as PDF, and this is the PDF. We can save it here, English, and on the Telegram desktop. Okay, it will be fine. Publish. So chemistry was thus moderate, right? Okay, done. Okay, over to Pookie Bhaiya.
Yes, thank you Parth. हाँ, paper I will open. Chai.
Okay, yes. So let's see the biology part.
Now, here I have saved this PDF, and yes, this. So yes, this is the whole paper, and from this whole paper I will be discussing specifically the biology section. So I know that many of the questions that were there in the exams, all the topics, if we talk about the concepts from which questions were asked, all the topics were covered in the class. Yes or no? So at least those students who were in the crash course and who were in the year-long course, they were or they would have been able to solve all the 15 questions. Yes, I know that 2-3 questions in this paper were tough, but I know that those students who know all the topics, who are familiar all the topics, all the topics are on their tips, they would have done all the 15 questions in the exam. Okay, so let's see the paper. So the first question, so this paper actually involved both kind of question, as we discussed in one of our YouTube videos, that IAT paper, it involves both the things, factual parts as well as the apna conceptual parts. So like we can see here in this paper that there were both the things were covered, facts as well as concepts. Okay, let's see this paper. So first question is a factual question, and it covers the knowledge of animal kingdom. Now if you see this question, those students, so this thing was told that facts, if you are familiar with the facts, if you know all the facts, then you will be able to solve these kinds of questions in not more than 10 seconds. Okay, let's see. So notochord and hollow nerve cord is present in which kind of animals? We know that chordates possess this thing. Chordates have notochord and a hollow nerve cord. Okay, clear? Ectoparasite with 6 to 15 pairs of gill slits are the characteristics of cyclostomata. Okay, marine animals with persistent notochord and placoid scales. Placoid scales are present in cartilaginous fishes, and open circulatory system and stomochord is present in hemichord. coordinates. So you can just check or just match these columns and get your answer. It's quite a simple question, है ना? So P का 4, P का 4 is present in A and B options. 1 and 3 are gone. Q का 1, है ना? Q का 1 is given in option number A, and Q का 2 is given here. So this option is also reduced or removed. So that's why this option is correct. So now many of the students, they were saying that all the questions, their answers are option A. No, that is not the case. In your paper, all the questions, their options would not have been A, or the correct answer would not have been A, because for your simplicity to see the correct answer, they have given all the correct option as A. Okay. So this is the answer sheet. This is not your question paper. That's why in order to make the things simpler, they have given all correct options as option number A. Okay. So this is not your actual paper. In actual paper, all the questions are jumbled. Clear? Now let's see the next question. So the next question, it actually covers the knowledge of cell biology, है ना? And in cell biology, there is a concept known as the different types of chromosomes on the basis of the position of centromeres. So this classification is based on the two things: chromosome, different types of chromosomes on the basis of structures are classified on the basis of two things. First one is centromere position, and second one is the size of chromatids. Size of chromatids. Okay, size of chromatids. Size of chromatids and centromere. But they are asking about the position of centromeres. Position of which of the following structures. So we know that four types of chromosomes are present: metacentric, submetacentric, acrocentric, and telocentric, and they are classified on the basis of differences in the position of centromeres. Yes or no? So in metacentric, both the chromatids are of equal size because centromere is on the middle, है ना? And in some other one, submetacentric, the centromere moves little bit upper side. Take in acrocentric, centromere further moves on the upper side, and one of the chromatid becomes large, another one becomes small. And in telocentric, both of them becomes very small, and there is literally one chromatid. Okay, clear? Clear? So that's why this classification is based on the position of centromere. Clear? Clear? Let's see the next question. Now they are saying which of the following option describes a triglyceride. We know that fats and oils, they are nothing but triglycerides, which includes glycerol and fatty acids. Okay, glycerol and fatty acids. But how many fatty acids? We know that glycerol is a molecule which looks like this: CH2OH, CHOH, and CH2OH, and it forms ester bonds with fatty acids here. So if and only if there are 3 fatty acids joined with these 3 OH groups of this glycerol, then only it forms a triglyceride molecule. Okay, so a simple triglyceride molecule, it involves 3 fatty acid chains linked to a molecule of glycerol. Okay, simple question if the student has read this part. Okay, now next question. They are saying which of the following statements about the plant carotenoid is false. So we know that carotenoids, they are the molecules which are also involved in absorption of light and absorption of sunlight, but the main pigment or the main pigments which are involved in the absorption of light are chlorophyll pigments, है ना? Chlorophyll pigments, they absorb light in between 600 to 700 nanometer range mostly. Okay, okay, but carotenoids, they do not absorb such wavelengths of lights. They absorb, so photosynthetically active radiation, it ranges from 400 to 700 nanometer, and the most of our chlorophyll molecule, they absorb in between this range. But the action spectra or the absorption spectra, it is actually absorbing light. It shows the absorption of light in all the wavelengths from starting from 400 to 700 nanometer. That's why there should be some molecule which is absorbing light in between other wavelengths also, and those are carotenoids. Clear? If you don't know this thing, then also you could have done this question right by just eliminating these three options. Let's see the three options. Carotenoids, it accumulates in chromoplast during fruit ripening, which is correct, because carotenoids are color producing molecules. They accumulates in chloroplast to give color to fruits or vegetables. Next, it provides precursor for the synthesis of stress hormones. Abscisic acid is a stress hormone which is synthesized by viola xanthin, and this viola xanthin is nothing but a type of carotenoid. This is also correct. It protects chlorophyll A from photooxidation. We know this thing. Chlorophyll A is the center molecule which is protected from photooxidation by these carotenoid pigments and also some other light harvesting proteins, okay, so which are known as antenna molecules. The only incorrect statement is this one, that it is an accessory pigment. Accessory pigment it is, but it absorbs light from 600 to 700 nanometer. No, it do not absorb light from 600 to 700 nanometer, or even if it absorbs some light in between this range, then also this statement is the most incorrect statement, because these three are absolutely correct statement. That's why this is most incorrect. So in such type of questions where you find that this is also possible, है ना, to some extent, in that case you have to just see that whether the other options are incorrect or not. If others are correct, then this one is the most incorrect one, okay. So that's why A is the most incorrect statement. Clear? Next. Now, this is a little tricky question, not tricky, but it involves little bit of understanding of your electron transport chain of transpiration, yes or no? And those students who have studied this thing, they would have done this question very simply, very easily, है ना? So we know that there are 5 complexes in electron transport system. Complex number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. One is known as NADP reductase or NADP or NADH dehydrogenase. Second one is succinic dehydrogenase, followed by cytochrome BC1 complex, followed by cytochrome oxidase or cytochrome AA3 molecules, and then F0 F1 complex. Clear? Now, they are saying that there is an experiment which was done on a cell suspension of actively respiring mitochondria is treated with either chemical X in experiment 1, chemical Y in experiment 2, or left untreated. So if it is left untreated, then respiration would have happened to a normal extent, है ना? 38 ADPs would have been produced. Okay, 38 ADP would have been produced. Clear? Now they are saying that chemical X selectively inhibits electron transport from complex 1 to ubiquinone, while complex number Y selectively inhibits electron transport from complex number 3 to cytochrome C. We know that the inhibition from complex number 1 to ubiquinone will inhibit the electron transfer from complex 1 only. ठीक है, from complex 1 only, which is NADH, which will be converted to NAD plus H plus 2 electron. The transfer of these 2 electrons will be hampered if chemical X is present in the system. But if chemical Y is present in the system, which inhibits complex number 3 to cytochrome C transfer, in that case, the electrons transfer of this system will be inhibited, as well as electron transfer from this system will also be hampered. Okay, clear? Clear? Bio? Half hour. Okay. Now, so these two, both of them will be hampered or inhibited. Clear? So, in that case, most amount of ATP will be produced in complex number, in experiment number 3, followed by this complex, because here transfer of electrons of this complex is reduced, is inhibited, but not this one. That's why this will synthesize some extent of ATPs, but this will synthesize some extent of ATP, that is complex number 1 to ubiquinone, complex number 1 to ubiquinone, experiment number 1. Okay. Followed by experiment number 2, which will inhibit the transfer of electron from both these molecules, produced by the breakdown of both these molecules. That's why this option is absolutely correct. Clear? Clear? Okay, let's move ahead. This was an easy question, but it looks little complex because there is some kind of experimental things, that experimental context that has been made to solve this question. Okay. Now this one, this is a very simple question from the chapter of excretion, and we have done this concept during the class also. And yes, this question is saying that if glomerular filtration rate is reduced, then what will happen? We have studied RAS mechanism, renin, angiotensin, aldosterone system, and it says that if glomerular filtration rate is reduced, or the amount of glomerular filtrate is reduced, or the amount of urine production is reduced, in that case the juxtaglomerular cells of kidney will get activated and they will start to produce renin, which will ultimately lead to production of two other hormones, which are angiotensin and aldosterone. Yes, so there will be production of three hormones: renin, angiotensin and aldosterone. Levels of renin, angiotensin 1 and 2 and aldosterone are increased. Correct? Clear? This is the correct option. Okay, so A is the correct answer here. Clear? Let's move ahead. Now this question is from the Bohr's effect. Okay, and it says that which one of the following conditions will favor maximum dissociation of oxygen from oxyhemoglobin in the tissue? We know that hemoglobin, it reacts with oxygen reversibly to form oxyhemoglobin. ठीक है, to form oxyhemoglobin, and this complex is made if H plus ions are low, H plus ions are low, pH is high, temperature is low, oxygen concentration is high, CO2 concentration is low. ठीक है, so HbO2 is formed in these conditions, but HbO2 is broken down in opposite condition. So they are asking about the dissociation of oxygen from oxyhemoglobin curve, and that will be done if H plus levels are high, pH is low, temperature is high, oxygen is low and CO2 levels are high. Clear? Clear? So now you can just match some of these entities in the options. So oxyhemoglobin dissociation will occur if H plus are high and temperature are high. H plus is high, temperature is high. Clear? Clear? Yes or no? Now let's move ahead and see the next question. Okay, let's see. Let's see. Which one of the following statement is correct? They are saying which one of the following statement is correct, and they are asking this question from the part of red and white muscle fibers. And red and white muscle fibers, why they have different color? Because of the differential presence of myoglobin proteins, है ना? So those which contains more amount of myoglobin will have red color. Those that will have less amount of myoglobin have white color, will have white color. Okay. Now those which have more amount of myoglobin will have other things also, because myoglobin, it is involved in storage of oxygen. So those muscle fibers which are red in color, which have more myoglobin, they will undergo aerobic respiration, and the amount of ATP produced will be higher in them because of more amount of mitochondria presence in them. Okay. So that's why the correct option here is that red muscle fibers which have more myoglobin produces ATP aerobically under normal oxygen conditions. Yes, this is the correct option. Okay, clear? Other options are wrong. Like if I may give you some idea of why they are wrong. Let's see. Mitochondria are more in white. This is a wrong statement, because mitochondria will be more in those muscles which have more myoglobin, and which is there in more red muscle fibers. Here they are saying white. Wrong. Lactic acid accumulates more in red. No. Lactic acid accumulation takes place if anaerobic respiration happens, but in red muscle fiber aerobic respiration is happening. That's why no lactic acid accumulation will be there. Okay. Wrong. All muscle fiber primarily produce ATP anaerobically. No, not all muscle fibers produces ATP anaerobically. Red muscle fiber produce ATP aerobically. Wrong. Let's move ahead. Now next question, it says that which one of the following organisms produces the female gamete by mitosis of haploid cells? We know that these three are animals, and animal produces gametes by meiosis, but some animals, they produce gametes by mitosis. Like if there is male honeybee, which is also known as drone, it is a haploid creature, and that's why it produces its haploid gamete by mitosis. Okay, but you can see that they are asking about the female gamete. Drone is a male, it's not a female. So that's why this option could have been correct if we would have been asked about the male gamete, है ना? But they are asking about female gamete. So female gamete, we know that in garden pea or in any angiosperm, production of gamete takes place by mitosis, because gametes are produced inside the gametophyte, and gametophyte is haploid. So haploid gametophyte produces gametes by mitosis. Clear? So you must have studied, and I have also taught you this thing about 7-celled 8-nucleate stage of female gametophyte development in angiosperm. That is nothing but that is development of female gametophyte and egg or the female gamete inside it. ठीक है? Clear? This option is absolutely correct. So one thing that I must tell you here, last year also, if you try to see your PYQ in some depth, similar kind of statement based question was asked. Okay, and same concepts were applied there also. So if you would have done your PYQ seriously, then you must have done this question in a correct manner. Okay. Now next, they are saying that which amino acid will be charged on the tRNA with anticodon, this one. This is anticodon, 5' to 3' anticodon, GUU. The corresponding codon will be complementary to it, 3 prime to 5 prime. What will be it? CAA, है ना? This is a codon, but codons are translated in the direction of 5 prime to 3 prime. So we have to also see the orientation of codons from 5 prime to 3 prime direction, that is AAC, 5 prime to 3 prime, AAC. AAC is the correct option here, correct answer here, which is this one, asparagine AAC. You don't need to see these things, you just need to see these codons, because you only need to know about the complementarity and how it is, about the polarity, है ना, those things. This is a conceptual question, it do not require any mugging up kind of things of this corresponding codons, corresponding amino acids with codons, okay. No need to remember anything in this question. Now this question looks tricky, actually it is not, and they are saying they have given us two crosses, okay, and they are saying that which among these four options are the most probable parents if the progeny's genotype they looks like this. This is a simple case of linkage. This is a simple case of linkage, because we are able to see that. Now there is one thing that you should know. In case of law of independent assortment, in case law of independent assortment is followed, in that case 50% of the progenies will be parentals and 50% will be अपना recombinants, okay. This is the case when law of independent assortment is followed, but in the cases of linkage, parentals are more in amount, more than 50%, and recombinants are less. If we see here, 35% are parentals here, okay. Here also 35 are parentals, and 15 30 are अपना recombinants, which means that it is a case of linkage, because if it would have been the case of law of independent assortment, then both of them would have been 50-50%. Now you just need to see where this small p capital Q and capital P small q is present. Okay, in case 1, let's see, small p capital Q here, capital P small q is here, okay, clear. In second cross also you can see this thing, capital P capital Q here, small p small q here. So that's why this is the correct answer. Okay, all the other options are incorrect. Okay, I am not going to tell you why these all are incorrect, because they are just the genotypes. You just need to know, or you just need to see all the things, like small p capital Q, here there is capital P capital Q, that's why it is incorrect, straightforward. Okay, like that you have to see. Next, this is a very simple question. Most or the simplest question of this paper is this one. What is a retrovirus? We know that retroviruses are RNA viruses, those viruses which have RNA genome, and we know that RNA, if they have to convert themselves in DNA, they need an enzyme known as reverse transcriptase. So simple, a group of viruses with RNA genome and reverse transcriptase activity. Simplest question of this paper. Those who haven't studied biology at all, they would have done this question right, because corona was a retrovirus, है ना? Okay, corona was a retrovirus because they have RNA genome. Now this question again, simple question, looks difficult, but because you don't have that kind of apna vision to see some tough kind of questions in biology, or not tough, lengthy questions in biology, and if you see such kind of question, you just leave that question, which is a bad thing, because these are easy questions. They don't require any understanding of biology. They have said here that we have digested a plasmid. We have digested a plasmid with the restriction endonuclease X, and they have got a band like this with an restriction endonuclease Y, and they got a band like this, and then they digested the plasmid with both of them simultaneously, and they got two such kind of bands. They have also mentioned that the plasmid size is 10,000 base pair or 10 kb we can say. So if X is a restriction enzyme and this is a 10 kb one, है ना, then 5 kb, in which case you will get 5 kb single fragment only in that case where your restriction endonuclease X have digested this plasmid in the middle. ठीक है? Here also same thing, 5 kb segment in the middle. Okay, but in double digestion we don't know. In double digestion we are getting 3 and 2 kb fragments. So we have to just see the options and get the correct answers. If you would have seen the options correctly, then you would have got the answer. Let's see. This is the correct option. We know after digestion what kind of fragments. So we are expecting to get what kind of fragment? 3 kb and 2 kb fragments. So only 3 and 2 kb fragments. Those plasmids which are giving us only 3 and 2 kb fragments will be the correct answer. Okay, let's see. 9,000, 12,000, 3 kb. Not 12,000. Oh, 1 minute. From here we have to move. 1200, 4,235, 3 kb. 4 to 6, 2 kb. 6 to 9, 3 kb. 9 to again this one, 3 kb. So 3 and 2 kb fragments we have got. This is the correct answer. Yes or no? If you see this option, one incorrect option, why it is incorrect, let me tell you once. 12 to 4, 3 kb. 4 to 6, 2 kb. 6 to 9, 3 kb. And 9 to 12. हाँ? A और B दोनों same option है. 1 minute. But one thing, XX, only single XX digestion should give you 5 kb fragment, which is not the case here. Okay, XX, if you will do only single digestion from X, then you will get a 3 kb fragment. But they have said here that single digestion of X will give you 5 kb fragments, which you will not get in this case. Likewise, you have to see. Okay, so you have to see both the scenarios. Single digestion will give you 5 kb and double digestion will give you 3 and 2 kb. Clear? So like this you have to solve. Next. Clear? Simple question, statement based question. This is one statement in your NCERT, and it says that drones, they can't have sons and they don't have fathers also, but they can have grandsons and they can have grandfathers also. Okay, because they are haploids, and they are saying which one among the statements are incorrect. Honeybee males, which means drones, cannot have daughters. They can have daughters, but they can't have sons, I said. But they are saying that they can have sons, but they can't have daughters. Ulta statement will be correct. Honeybee drones can have daughters, but they can't have sons. Okay, this is the incorrect statement. That's why it is correct option, because they have asked incorrect option. Now next, this is the single question from the chapter of ecology, from the whole unit of ecology, and they are saying which one of the following is false. And I have told you that sunlight, if the visible range or visible wavelength of sunlight is 100%, then from that 100% sunlight, only 50% of sunlight is photosynthetically active radiation, and plants absorb only 2 to 10% of this photosynthetically active radiation. Clear? And they are saying that more than 80% of the solar energy incident on the earth is captured by plant and photosynthetic bacteria, which is wrong because they are not capturing 80% of sunlight. They are just capturing about 2 to 10% of sunlight of this photosynthetically active radiation. And they are asking about incident radiation. Incident is this one. If 2 to 10% of photosynthetically active radiation is there, then 1 to 5% of incident radiation will be absorbed. So that's why this statement is incorrect, because they are asking about 80%. Clear? Clear? So these were your 15 questions of biology, which were mostly easy, and students of all the stream, if they have studied biology, would have been able to do at least 10 questions from this paper. Okay, 3 questions were little bit tough, and let me give you an idea about those tough questions. This looks tough, okay, but it is not actually. Those questions were also not tough, they look tough. One, 2, and this one, third one. Okay, 3 were, 3 looks tough, but they are actually not tough. All the 15 questions were doable if you would have studied your apna all the biology NCERT. Okay, clear? So I guess this is all from my side, and I hope you have done good in this exam in biology section as well as the whole part, and I wish you all the best. You should get selected, all of you should get selected in the exam. And now I'll be inviting my friend Siddharth Bhaiya, your Siddharth Bhaiya, to solve physics part. Over to you.
Hello everyone, hello. I've been looking at your chat ever since the live started, and all I can see is, yeah, what's the cutoff, when will the list be released, I'm getting 30 marks overall, will I get ISC, any chance? So if you guys are here for the sole purpose of asking whether you'll get some particular selection, then let me tell you, first of all, I will not be discussing anything of that sort. So you might as well leave the session right now, do something better with your life. And if you guys are interested in getting to know your mistakes in this paper, analyzing the paper, then yes, this will be a very useful session to you. One more thing, if you guys don't know yet, then option number A is the correct option. In all of the questions, IISer releases their question paper by setting all of this. So don't give me all that nonsense about ticking the correct options. Let's quickly start. In the first question, we have an elastic collision between objects that have the same mass. Now this is a very, very common concept that is taught in all classes, and we also have discussed this in our class, that when two objects of the same mass undergo elastic collision, they exchange their speeds. They exchange their speeds after collisions. So just looking at the options, you would be able to recognize that yes, speed of A becomes the speed of B, and speed of B becomes the speed of A. If you just know this one simple concept, that after collision, objects of the same mass exchange their speeds, then this was less than a 10 seconds question. Within 10 seconds, you should have been able to be totally done with this particular question. And even if you don't know this concept, just simply conserving the momentum, m into Va plus m into Vb should be equal to m into Va dash, that is velocity after collision, plus m into Vb dash, velocity of B after collision. Both the masses are same, so m gets cancelled everywhere,
and then applying the condition for elastic collision, that is their relative velocities should be equal to the relative velocities after collision. So V of A minus V of B should have been equal to V of B dash minus V of A dash. That's it. Two equations. First one, conservation of momentum, and second one is the condition for elastic collision, that is we equate the relative velocities before and after collision. Simply adding these two expressions, Vb gets cancelled and you will get that Va is equal to Vb dash and Vb is equal to Va dash. First option is very clearly the correct option. And even if you guys were not able to do just these two steps, notice one thing, that the x versus t graph is the same in all of the options. In every single option, x versus t graph is the same, BBAA, BBAA, exactly the same in all of the options. So whatever x versus t graph is given to you, this has to be the correct answer. X versus t graph, the correct graph has been given to you. It's the same in all of the options. This has to be correct. So simply differentiating the graph and calculating the slope of A over here, slope of B over here, it was very easy to get the answer. Easiest question, first question, even if you don't know anything about collisions, even if you don't know anything about velocity displacement, this should have been done in 10 seconds by everyone. And this was a general theme that I have observed in the entire paper. The paper was very easy. I think only two questions are there towards the very end, which do require a little bit of logic, not a lot, just a little bit of logic is required in two questions, and we will get to them. But most of the paper was as easy as this question, just one step and you would get the answer. Let's look at the next one. In the next question, we have been given a bullet that collides with an object of mass m attached to a spring, and it gets completely stuck to the object. We know what this means. What does an object getting completely stuck mean in terms of physics? It means it is a perfectly inelastic collision. Perfectly inelastic collision is happening over here. And we also know how to deal with perfectly inelastic collision. The velocity of both of the blocks after collision will be the same. So we don't even require any energy conservation. Just conserving the momentum will easily give us the correct answer. Initial momentum is m into v, final momentum is m plus capital M, I'm very sorry. The combined mass of the objects into the final velocity v dash will easily give you the value of v dash over here. V dash is simply mv upon the sum of their masses, and we require the maximum compression. What is the maximum compression? If we conserve energy over here, then the kinetic energy after the collision should be equal to the elastic potential energy that gets stored in the spring when both of the masses come to rest, that is the maximum displacement. So simply elastic potential energy we can write as half k into x naught square. X naught is the maximum compression. Equate this to half into combined mass capital M plus small m into v dash the whole square, which we know as m square v square upon the sum of masses the whole square. The sum of masses will get cancelled in one term and we will exactly get this particular answer, m square v square upon the sum of masses into k. Very easy. One step solution, not even two step, one step solution. Get the value of v dash, substitute in this equation and you get the answer. Very easy. The first 10 questions I would say are extremely easy. Let's look at the next question. In the next question, we have been given a block that travels along this particular track. You can look at this as a Hot Wheels car. A Hot Wheels car of mass capital M is traveling along this and we have not been given the shape of this loop. All that we've been given is that CBD is a semicircle. Yes, semicircular arc CBD is there, but the entire loop is not a perfect circle. The bottom part of the loop can be any random shape, but we are not really interested in that. Why? Because we have been asked which quantities does not play any role such that the block should never leave the track. All we can do over here is we can conserve energy at this point and at this point, but we know that at this particular point, the topmost point, if the block should not leave the track, then it cannot come to rest at the topmost point. At the topmost point, the block should have some velocity such that it will remain in circular motion at the point B. And does anyone know what is the condition such that the block remains in circular motion at the point B? It should have some speed. Yes, it should have some velocity, but that velocity should be related to the centripetal force. We know at this point the only force acting on the block is its own weight. There is no other force. The weight is exerted downwards. The block is not exerting any weight on the track. The track, there is no normal direction force in the limiting case. The only central force that acts on the block is its own weight mg, and this should be equal to m into v square upon the radius of the semicircular track r. So from here we get the value of v, sorry, a capital M, not small m, m gets cancelled. The value of v is simply root of g into r. Standard result. Whoever has memorized this result through practice, of course, can easily see that the velocity at this point should be related to the radius of the semicircular track. Now simply conserving energy at this initial point and at this final point, we get the expression that capital M into G into height h1, initial potential energy, should be equal to the potential energy at point B, which is mg into h2, plus the kinetic energy due to this velocity, that is half into mass m into v square, which is just g into r. M gets conveniently cancelled everywhere in the equation, and the condition that the block never leaves the track only depends on h1, h2 and radius. I am sure the options have h1, h2 and radius. All of this are dependent, and the only independent part is the mass, which gets cancelled in the equation. In fact, you don't even require doing all of this. Just if you know that the mass only plays a role when the object is accelerating. So if we have been given a condition that the acceleration of the block at some particular point should be some particular value, only then the mass m would play a role. Mass m does not play a role anywhere where the acceleration is not important. The acceleration was not important in this question, so pure logically also mass should not play a role in the motion of this block at all. It's a very simple question, extremely simple, just one step of logic and you would be totally done with it. Let's look at the next question now. In this one, we've been given a disk of mass m which is rotating clockwise, and we have applied a torque T on it. We know that torque will give some angular acceleration to it, which is related as moment of inertia I into alpha. We know moment of inertia of a disk is mr square by 2, mass radius square upon 2 is the moment of inertia, and alpha we get as simply 2t upon mr square. We need the angular displacement theta. Angular displacement is required. How can we relate angular displacement to the angular acceleration? Kinematical equation. We know the kinematical equation, v square is equal to u square plus 2as. Very simple equation. This is the case for an object travelling in a straight line, but if an object is only rotating, it is not travelling, then we can convert this equation into an angular equation. Just convert all of these linear variables into angular variables. V initial velocity, acceleration and displacement, all these variables we can easily straightforward convert into angular variables as final omega, that is final angular speed omega f should be equal to the initial angular speed, which is given to be omega, and since the torque is opposite, the plus sign becomes a minus sign, and minus of 2 into alpha into the angular displacement theta for the entire duration. That's it, the question is done. We know the final omega should be equal to 0 because the disk comes to rest, it stops rotating after some angular displacement which we need to calculate. From here theta we can easily write down as omega square upon twice of the angular acceleration alpha, which we have already calculated from the previous case. It was twice of t upon mr square. So theta comes out to be omega square into mr square upon 2 into twice of t, that is 4 times the torque applied. Option A is once again correct over here. All of these questions can be solved very simply just if you know the basic theory that governs it. In the next question, we have a cube, metallic cube kept at temperature T, and it is radiating power which is given to us. Now we know the power radiation is given as emissivity into sigma into the surface area of a cube is simply 6 times the area of its face. If the side length of a cube is a, then the area is 6 times a square. Very simple. And temperature to the power 4 completes the formula totally. This is Stephen Boltzmann's law, and if you apply uncertainty relation over here, if we increase the side length, if we increase the temperature, then the power should also increase. Uncertainty relation, if you know from this, it goes as delta P over P. E and sigma are constants. 6 is also a constant. They don't play any role in propagation of uncertainty. Only role is a square and t power 4, and since a has a power 2, then the uncertainty for a will be twice of delta a over a. Just the power 2 comes over here, and since t has a power 4, uncertainty goes as 4 into delta t over t. According to question, we have given the power increases by 4.5% and the temperature increases by 1%. We can easily find the percentage increase in the side length from here. Percentage increase in side length comes out to be percentage increase in power, everything is half. Percentage increase in power is 4.5 minus 4 times percentage increase in temperature, which is 1. So 4 into 1, which is just 4. 0.5 upon 2 is 0.25% is the percentage increase in the length of the cube, and we need the percentage increase in volume of the cube. Again, very simple, since volume of a cube is a cube, then the percentage increase in volume, that is delta V by V, will simply be thrice of delta A by A, which we know to be 0.25, hence it will be 0.75%. Option A is once again perfectly matching over here. No big deal. First 5 questions we have solved such simply. Rest of the questions also are as simple as these ones. Let's see. 6th question, we've been given 2 pipes. A has one end closed and B has both ends open. We know the harmonic frequencies for both of these pipes, but the complication over here is both of them are immersed in different ideal gases. What does it mean? It means the velocity of sound will be different for both of these tubes. That is not a concern at all, because we also know the frequencies as the velocity of sound. We know the frequency of A in its nth harmonic mode is the harmonic mode into velocity of gas upon 4 times the length of the tube. This is how the frequency of nth harmonic varies for a tube closed at one end, and since their frequencies are equal, we can equate this with the frequency for the bth harmonic. Velocity of gas in B is also different, but since the tube B is open at both ends, twice of L will be in the denominator. That's it. The question is literally done over here. Why? Because we know the velocity of sound in a gas goes as square root of the temperature of the gas. Similarly, for B also, velocity of gas will be the square root of temperature of the gas. If we simply relate them as such, then we will get over here Na into square root of Ta upon 4, because L will get cancelled from both sides, should be equal to Nb into square root of Tb over 2. What have we been asked? We've been asked ratio Ta and Tb. If we take Ta over here, Tb will come downstairs, Ta over Tb. We will have to square both sides. 2 will get cancelled with 4 and we will be left with 2 over here. And if we square them, we will get 2 square, that is 4. I hope you all know this. So 4 into Nb the whole square upon Na the whole square is the ratio Ta over Tb, which is again matching exactly with option A. Again, not more than 1 minute is required for calculating all of these 2 steps. 2 steps of calculation should take you no more than 30 seconds. 30 seconds more to verify your answer, and within 1 minute this question will be exactly solved. Let's look at the next one. In this question, we've been given 2 waves, A sin kx minus omega t and root 3a cos kx minus omega t. What is the phase difference between a sine function and cos function? Exactly 90 degrees. We know delta is exactly pi by 2, which is the phase difference between a sine function and a cos function. That's it, the question is over. We've been asked what are the resultant amplitude and the resultant phase which it makes with y1. Simple parallelogram. We know the resultant amplitude is equal to square root of a1 square, which is simply a. So let us write a1 as a, and a2 is root 3 times a, so a2 square will be 3 into a square plus 2 root 3 into a square into cos of delta. Since delta is pi by 2, cos delta will be equal to 0, and as will simply be a square plus 3a square, which is twice of a. But twice of a appears both in option A and B, so we have not really ruled out all the 3 options. A and B, either of them can be correct. Let's check the value of phase now. Again, parallelogram law, we know that resultant phase is equal to tan inverse of A2 sin delta upon A1 plus A2 cos of delta. Cos of delta already is 0, we know. So tan inverse of A2 is root 3 into A, and A1 is simply A. Sin pi by 2 is 1. Tan inverse of root 3 we know is pi by 3. Option A is also correct over here. Again, total you should not spend more than 1 minute to do these simple 2 steps of calculation. Very, very easy questions all over the paper, we can see. Next question, we have been given a parallel plate capacitor such that the potential difference across its plates is given to be V, and we have been given that there is a constant electric field existing between the plates. Can anyone tell me how the electric field and potential difference are related for any general electrostatic system? We know that E is equal to minus of dV by dx. Since electric field is constant, vector form, yeah, so electric field is constant, it will be equal to simply the potential difference across the ends d, and since potential difference is exactly equal to 1 upon d, will be the value of electric field in volts. The value of electric field is given by volt into volts per meter. This is the unit in which we are calculating electric field, right? And we've been asked if a particle of charge q and mass m enters with kinetic energy k, we can equate k to half m into v square. That is the velocity with which it will enter. We get the value of v to be exactly under root of 2k upon the mass of the particle. This will be the value of velocity with which the charge will enter. Now, the condition is that it should not hit either of the plates. So, its trajectory should be something like this. It should exit just before hitting the bottom plate. We know the electric field will accelerate it downwards. Again, if we break down the motion of the charge as vertical and horizontal, the time in which the charge crosses the bottom plate should be equal to the time it will take to reach the bottom plate vertically. We can find this time. We know that the speed is horizontal initially and the electric field is vertical. The electric field will not change the horizontal component of the velocity. So, the time that the charge takes to traverse through the plate will simply be the length upon its initial speed, which we have already been given. So, time taken to cross will simply be length upon the initial horizontal speed, that is L into square root of m by 2k. M over 2k will be the time that it takes to cross. Now, in this time, the particle should also cover this distance, which is half of d. So, half of d should be covered in this time. We know the acceleration of the charge is simply the charge into electric field upon the mass of the charge, but we have been given k should be in electron volts. So, actually we do not have to calculate k, we have to calculate the ratio of k upon E. The electric field is already in volts. The unit of electric field is already volts per meter. So, if we simply divide the value of k, which is in SI units, by the electron charge E, we will get its value in electron volts. So, just by equating it, we should get the distance covered vertically d by 2 should be equal to half into acceleration into time taken to cross, the whole square. 2 and 2 will get cancelled. So, d should be equal to acceleration is charge into electric field upon the mass m into time taken to cross square will be L square into m over 2k. We require the value of k upon m. So, taking k to the other side, sorry, k upon E, which is the value of energy in electron volts, will be equal to L square, we have been getting from here, sorry, not cube, square, m and m will get cancelled, and 1d from this side and 1d from this side, E upon d is there, yes, V upon d, E is equal to simply 1 upon d, so k square upon twice of d square will be the answer. Remember, you have been asked the value of k in electron volts. So, value of k in electron volts will simply be k divided by electron charge, because electric field is already in volts. This is the logic that was required in this question, nothing more. And even if you find the actual value of k in SI units, you will only get an additional term E over here, and in the options there is no such thing as L square E upon 2d square. So, even if you forget the fact that energy in electron volts has to be divided by electron charge, even then the pattern L square upon 2d square should be very, very visible to you, and option A is once again matching exactly. This was one of the questions in which you might have had to think for a little bit, but no more than that. Even this was not a very big deal to solve. Let's look at the next question. In this question, yes, we have been given 4 capacitors and we are asked to find the potential difference across the point P and Q. We know that since these 2 branches are connected in parallel, the potential difference across these 2 branches should be exactly the same, and in each branch a 4 microfarad capacitor is connected in series with a 2 microfarad capacitor. So the capacitance of each branch we can write as CB is simply the series sum of the 4 and 2 microfarads capacitor, which is 4 into 2 C1 into C2 upon C1 plus C2. 8 upon 6 gives us 4 upon 3 microfarads is the net capacitance of each individual branch. Now, since both of them have the same voltage supply 12 volts, the charge on each branch, which will be the same, we can calculate as Q, which is equal to C into V, charge of branch into voltage supply, that is 4 by 3 microfarads into 12 volts, which is 16 microcoulombs, will be the charge in each branch. And within a branch the charge on the capacitors is the same because they are connected in series. So the potential difference between P and Q can also be easily calculated, because we know the voltage drop across a capacitor, is simply the charge on the capacitor upon its capacitance. So the voltage at P will be equal to 12 volts, which is the initial voltage, minus of charge on capacitor is 16 and the capacitance is 4 microfarads. 16 by 4 is 4, so Vp we get as 8 volts. And similarly we can calculate voltage at Q as 12 minus charge 16 upon capacitance now is 2. 16 by 2 is 8, 12 minus 8 is 4 volts. Difference 8 minus 4 exactly is coming out to be 4 volts. Again, simple, very simple properties of a capacitor. The fact that voltage difference is charge upon capacitance is all you need to know. Rest everything is very straightforward. 2 steps of calculations and the answer is clear. Next question. Yes, this is the only question in which you might have had to think for just a little bit, not for long, just a little bit. We have been given the velocity of the particle and the magnetic field also, but the velocity is in vector form, magnetic field is also in vector form. What will be the magnitude of velocity? Magnitude of velocity, I cap, j cap, k cap, the vector has a magnitude √3, so it will be √3 times V naught, and similarly the magnitude of magnetic field is also √3 times B naught. Again, given the expression of vector, calculating magnitude should be very easy for you guys. Now, we know that only the perpendicular component of velocity causes the particle to move in a circle. If this is a velocity and this is the magnetic field B, the perpendicular component of velocity V perpendicular is the only thing that will cause it to perform a cyclotron motion, and V parallel, this component, will make the charge traverse in the forward direction. We can calculate V parallel and V perpendicular very easily just by taking the projection of V along B. If you guys remember, the projection of velocity along magnetic field can be very easily calculated using a dot product. V dot B upon the magnitude of B will exactly give us the value of the parallel component of velocity. The dot product I cap into I cap is 1, j cap is 1, minus k cap minus cap into k cap is -1. So dot product into V dot B will simply be V dot into B dot. So V naught into B naught upon the magnitude of B is √3 times B naught. which will be V naught over root 3. And we know that the magnitude of velocity is the sum of magnitudes of its perpendicular and parallel components. So the perpendicular component can also be very easily calculated as magnitude square minus magnitude of parallel component square. Magnitude of velocity we know is root 3 times V naught. So 3 times V naught square minus V naught square by 3, which is parallel component square, will give us 8 by 9 into V naught. In terms of V naught, it will be 2 root 2 by root 3 into V naught is the value of perpendicular component. That's it, the question is done. If you know the radius of cyclotron, it is given by m into v upon charge into b. But over here, the velocity, only the perpendicular component will cause the charge to move in the circle. So in the formula of radius of cyclotron, only the perpendicular component of velocity will provide the required centripetal force. We know it as 2 root 2 upon 3. So substituting, b value is root 3 into b naught. So root 3 from here and root 3 from b naught gets multiplied to give 3. 2 root 2 into m v naught upon 3 into q into b naught is the value of radius, which matches both with option A as well as option C. So, so this should be option A and option C are shortlisted, but we still need to shortlist them even further to get the correct answer. For that, we have to calculate the pitch of the cyclotron. We know the pitch is simply the distance covered in one full circle. So if the object is moving in a helical motion, the distance between any two successive points is the pitch p. This is basically the wavelength of a helix, and this we can easily calculate by the velocity parallel component, which is responsible for moving the charge forward, into the time taken to cover one full circle. The time taken by the charge to cover one full circle, in that time the charge should move exactly this much distance. And if you know for a cyclotron, the time period, we have also derived this in our one shot lecture, will be equal to v parallel into 2 pi m upon q into b. Again, if you don't know this formula, you can very easily derive this in less than 10 seconds by equating the centripetal force to the Lorentz force due to the magnetic field, and just by substituting the value of parallel velocity v naught by root 3 and the value of magnetic field is root 3 into b naught, root 3 and root 3 will get multiplied, and 3 into q b naught will be the value of the distance that the charge covers in one time period. This was the toughest question, I would say, in the entire paper, and this was the only question in which I would expect anyone to have any problem at all. Other than this, and I think the next question after this also is a little bit involved, but barring these two questions, there should be no issue at all in solving any other questions. 13 questions were very easy. Just this one question and the question immediately after this, which we will see, were the only questions in which you needed to apply some logic from your part also. All other questions were very straightforward, direct application questions. Great, let's look at the next question now. In this question, we have been given another cyclotron motion, but we have a circular metallic frame that encompasses the entire cyclotron. So if this is a magnetic field B and there is a charge moving in a circle around it, now we have a larger metallic loop. My drawing is not good, but this is a circle, and this encompasses the cyclotron which is happening inside it. If there is a magnetic field inside this metallic loop of radius r, and we are decreasing the value of r, what will happen? The flux that is passing through this loop is given by B into the area pi r square. If we decrease the value of radius, then the value of flux phi will also decrease. If the value of flux decreases, then according to Lenz's law, there will be some EMF induced which will oppose this decrease. The EMF induced should oppose the decrease in phi. How can it oppose the decrease in phi? It cannot affect the radius of the metallic loop. It's an object, it is a metal. So the flux cannot change its radius, but the flux can induce some current inside this loop such that the flux passing through this loop increases by changing the magnetic field. From the right hand rule, we know that if it induces current in this direction, induced current will increase the magnetic field that passes through the loop, and hence the flux would also increase. So what does the EMF do? EMF increases the value of magnetic field that exists inside the loop, and if the magnetic field increases, we can easily relate it to the cyclotron radius, which is mv upon qb, which we have just calculated in the previous question, and the frequency of cyclotron is simply equal to q into b upon m. Again, standard formula. Even if you don't know these formulas, you can very simply derive them. It's a one-step derivation for both of these formulas, very easy. If the magnetic field is increasing, then the radius has to decrease. If the magnetic field is increasing, then the frequency has to increase. Option A clearly matches, hence we have the answer also. Yes, so question 10 and question 11 were the only two questions, I would say, in which you had to think, in which you had to visualize, in which you had to decide whether to use Lenz's law in the statement form or in the mathematical form. But these two questions were not really out of syllabus, very simple concept applications. If you are able to think that yes, flux will decrease, so EMF has to increase the flux, these were also very straightforward. But apart from these two questions, literally every other question was very easy. Let's take a look at others then. Over here we have been given a ray optics question, and I have told you before also that whenever you have plane surface refraction, the question doesn't have anything to do with optics at all. It is a simple geometry question. We have been given that the ray of light is parallel to its base, which means minimum deviation. But the minimum deviation is not really required over here. All you require is geometry. We know that for a glass slab, the emergent ray will be parallel to the incident ray. Emergent ray is parallel to the incident ray for a glass slab, we know. So whatever angle of emergence we have been given to find, the angle of incidence will be the same. And if we draw a normal, since the plates are parallel, both of these angles will be theta. And if it is parallel to the base, minimum deviation, we know that angle of incidence should be equal to angle of emergence from the prism also. Let the angle of incidence be whatever theta is there, but the angle of refraction can be easily calculated using geometry. This is an equilateral prism. All of these angles will be 60 degrees, and since we need the angle with the normal, it will be 30 degrees. Simple geometry, we have found the angle of internal refraction in this prism. Applying Snell's law over here, refractive index is 3/2, 1.5 into sine of 30 degrees should be equal to, refractive index in air is simply 1, so angle of emergence theta we can easily get from here. Theta comes out to be sine 30 degrees is half, so 3/4, theta is equal to sine inverse of 3/4. Option A is again exactly matching. Nothing much, just simple geometry and simple fact of minimum deviation. You would easily be able to determine that angle of the final emergence should be equal to angle of emergence with the prism also, and from geometry you would get the angle of internal refraction to be equal to 30 degrees. Very, very simple two-step calculation, not even two-step, one-step calculation, one step of maths, one step of logic, and this question is over. Let's look at the next one now. In this question, we have a polarized light of intensity I naught, which is polarized in the vertical direction, passes through a Polaroid which is at an angle of theta. Malus law, we know that the emergent intensity will be equal to cos square theta. I will be equal to I naught times cos square theta, and this will be the incident intensity on the second polarizer also. Since the second polarizer is completely perpendicular to the initial direction, we know the angle made by it will be 90 degrees minus theta. This was the initial direction, this was the final direction, and we know that this makes an angle theta. So this angle should be 90 degrees minus of theta. So the intensity after emerging from the second polarizer should be equal to incident I naught cos square theta into cos square of 90 minus theta, which is just sin square theta. So we can write this as I naught into cos square theta into sin square theta. And if you know the trigonometric identities, twice of sin theta into cos theta should be equal to sin of twice theta, and we have over here sin square theta cos square theta should be equal to sin square of twice theta upon 2. Sin square of twice theta upon 2 should be the final expression. So I naught by 4 into sin square of 2 theta is the final intensity 3 I naught by 16. Let's write 3 I naught over 16. 4 gets cancelled with 16, remaining 4. I naught and I naught also gets cancelled. Sin square 2 theta should be equal to 3 by 4, or 2 theta should be equal to sin inverse root 3 by 2, which is 60 degrees. But not really, because sin of 2 theta to be equal to root 3 by 2 can have multiple solutions. Remember, sin theta is positive in the first and second quadrants. So the value of 2 theta can either be 60 degrees or it can also be 120 degrees. Sin of 120 degrees is also root 3 by 2. Don't forget this crucial fact. Sin theta is positive in the first as well as second quadrants. So root 3 by 2 is responsible for sin theta to be 60 as well as 120 degrees, and hence theta can either be 30 degrees or 60 degrees. Both of them will give you the same final intensity. We have been asked the possible value of theta. These two values are possible. One of them matches with the option, so that is the correct answer. If you had been given two options, 30 degrees as option A and 60 as option B, then you could have appealed to iiser that why are you giving two options to be correct when it is a single option paper. But since only one option has a possible value, only one option will be correct, and that is option A. Again, very, very simple, straightforward application of Malus law. We have done these questions in class. I have told you that this question will come, and this has come in the paper also. Next question, let us see. Here we have an electron in ground state, and we have been given the energy of ground state also as E1, and the photon which is incident also we have directly been given the energy. We don't even need to convert the energy into wavelength. We don't even need to convert the relation between the principal quantum numbers to the Rydberg constant. Nothing of that sort is required. Only initial and final energy is required. In ground state, it had energy E1. It absorbed a photon of energy Ea, and it goes to an excited state N. We know the energy of excited state depends on the ground state energy as E1 upon N square. That's it. question over. We need the value of n. N will be equal to E1 upon E1 plus EA square root. Very, very simple. Option A we can see. Again, very, very easy questions. I told you only 2 questions are well enough that you need to have some logic involved. Look, next question, we have a charge q which has a mass m, it's a particle, and it is accelerating in a uniform electric field, but it travels a distance of d1, we've been given, and it travels a distance of d2 if another particle of charge same and mass capital M is given to us. Again, we know the acceleration due to a constant electric field will be charge into electric field upon the mass of the charge. So the acceleration of the first particle we can write as A1, which is equal to the same q into electric field E upon mass m. Acceleration A2 will be equal to charge is same, electric field is same, mass just is capital M, and the distance travelled under this acceleration should again be half into A into T1 square. But we have been asked to calculate the de Broglie wavelength. Can we relate the de Broglie wavelength directly to acceleration? Yes, we can. We can write v square is equal to u square plus 2a into s. Initial velocity is 0, so we get the final velocity v as under root of twice acceleration into the displacement, linear displacement. So we can write the velocity of the charge 1 after accelerating a distance of d1 will be under root of twice a1 into d1, and similarly velocity of 2 will be equal to under root twice a2 into d2. Now we need to relate these two de Broglie wavelength. Let us first substitute the value of acceleration of a1 is q into e upon m. So it will be twice of q e d1 upon mass m, and similarly v2 will also be twice of q into e d2 over capital M is the mass of this particle. These are the values of velocities, and if they have the same de Broglie wavelength, that is h upon m into v1 should be the same. De Broglie wavelength is equal to h upon mass into velocity. So that means m into v1 should be equal to capital M into v2. Mass m into v1 is 2qe d1 upon mass should be equal to capital M into root of 2qe d2 upon the mass. Again, mass m cancels with the mass inside the square root in both cases. And if we need the ratio of d2 upon d1 is asked, right? So d2 upon d1 will be equal to, simply we take d2 over here, d1 we take downstairs, and we get squaring both sides small m upon capital M easily. We get the mass. Again, option A matches in this case. Again, very, very simple. All you have to do was 2 steps of calculation and the answer was very, very clear. All of the questions were very easy. As I said, there were only 2 questions in which you required a little bit of logic, a little bit of thinking. Rest, I am expecting at least 40 marks should be the average in physics section. If you are not able to score 40 marks in physics, then I don't think that cutoff can be cleared with this, because physics was much easier than previous year. In 2024, the physics section had, I remember, at least 4 good questions in which you needed logic, in which you can't simply apply formula and get the answer directly. There was critical thinking required in at least 4 questions last year. This year we have only 2 questions that require critical thinking. So I am expecting the cutoff for physics to be at least 5 marks higher than last year's paper. So if you are able to score 40 marks in physics section, then you can say that yes, you are in the safe zone. If you are getting less than 40, then I'm just hoping that you guys have performed better in bio and chem sections, because those were a little bit tougher than last year, and those will be the sections that determine the final cutoff. But yes, physics was very easy, and I'm sure even maths was easier. I have looked at the paper and it seems easy to me. For maths, you have Shriyam Bhai right now. He will tell you how the maths paper was. But yeah, if you can expect 40 in physics, then yes, cutoff can be clear. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, hi guys. Yeah, like Siddharth said, like maths was very easy this year according to me. Like super easy. So let's just go over the questions quickly. Where is maths? Okay. So before we start, like, how many questions did you attempt in maths? Like a general idea. And after I solve, you'll get an idea of the score that you'll be getting. But how many questions did you attempt? Because maths was super easy. Like if you're a PCM student, like maths would have been like super easy for you. Like a 50 plus score is the minimum that I'm expecting from you guys. Okay. Even for bio students, like 7 to 8 questions were super easy. And if you have seen the video about like the most important topics for bio students, every chapter we asked you to study, a question has come from those chapters, right? So I mean, even if you prepare that much as a bio student, you should have gotten at least 7 or 8 questions correct. Okay. Yeah. All right. Let's start off with the first question. So the first question was, how many 3-digit numbers divisible by 5 are there in which no digits are repeated, right? Okay. So we know that what is a 3-digit number? It's some number of the form ABC. And now if it's divisible by 5, then we know that this last digit C has to be either 0 or 5, right? Which means we have two cases. Either the number is going to look like some AB0 or it's going to look like AB5, right? Yep. Okay. Now if you look at the first digit, A, how many choices do you have for A? A can be any digit starting from 1 all the way till 9, right? You can choose A to be anything from 1 to 9. So you have 9 choices, right? And for B, B in general can take any value between 0 and 9, right? When you are constructing numbers using digits, we know that the second digit can take any value between 0 and 9. But in this case, it can't be 0 because 0 is already there as the last digit and you can't repeat any digits, right? So B can't be 0, B can't be equal to A, right? So that takes away 2 of your options, right? So how many options do you get? 8 options, right? So in the first case, you get 72 numbers, right? Coming to the second one, again, A in general can take values from 1 to 9, but now A can't be equal to 5, right? Because you already have 1 5 present in this number. So how many choices does A have? 8. Similarly for B, B can't be 8, B can't be A, B can't be 5. So out of those 10, you remove 2 choices, so you have 8 choices, right? So in the second case, you get 64 numbers, right? And if you add the 72 plus 64 is the total number of 3-digit numbers that you can form, which is nothing but 136, right? Cool. So again, 30 seconds question max, 30, 45 maximum, okay? Should not be taking more than that for this question. Second one, again, what is a symmetric matrix? So the elements across the principal diagonals need to be the same, right? So -1, -1, same. Cos x, so these are different, 25, 25 are again same, right? So you basically want cos x to be equal to x squared plus 1. This is the condition that you need for this matrix to be a symmetric matrix, right? Yep. Now see, x square plus 1. X square is always non-negative. We know this, right? For any real number x, x square is always non-negative. Which means the right hand side is greater than or equal to 1. But what is the range of cos x? Cos x always takes values in between -1 and 1. So for both of these to be equal, we need the right hand side to be exactly equal to 1. Yes or no? So for equality, we want x square plus 1 to be exactly equal to 1, which implies that x has to be 0. This is the unique solution, right? So how many such matrices can you form? You can only form one such matrix, right? When x is equal to 0. Okay? Alright. So that's question 2. Coming to question 3. Question 3 was all about constructing, so the binomial expansion is given to you. You have to construct the compact form, right? So if you rewrite this slightly, observe that this can be written as r equal to 0 to 10, 10 choose r. So wait, in general, what does a binomial expansion look like? It's some n choose k, x to the power k, y to the power n minus k, right? Yes or no? This is what we have. So we want it in terms of x to the power k. In this case, it's r, right? So 2 to the power 2r can be written as nothing but 4 to the power r, yes or no? And the remaining thing, this 3 to the power 2r, combine it with 3 to the power 20. What will you get? 3 power 20 is nothing but 9 to the power 10. 3 to the power 2r is nothing but 9 to the power r, right? So this 2 combined together will give you 9 to the power 10 minus r, and there is an extra minus 1 to the power r present, right? So combine this with this, keep this as it is. This entire expansion turns out to be 9 minus 4 whole to the power 10, right? And what is this? This is nothing but 5 to the power 10. Now 5 is a prime. 5 to the power 10 can only be divisible by 5 out of these options. Like, none of the rest will divide it. So the answer is A, okay? So this number n is divisible by 5. Cool? Okay? So as you can see, all the questions were literally two-liners, okay, so far. Coming to question 4. Question 4 is you have a function given to you. It's cos of tan inverse x, then which of the following statements is true? Okay. So let's simplify this function first, okay? So if you take tan inverse x, let's say to be equal to some theta, which implies that x is nothing but tan theta. So if tan inverse x is equal to theta, our function fx is nothing but cos of theta. Yes or no? And how do we write cos theta? Cos theta is nothing but 1 by root over 1 plus tan square theta. Yes or no? 1 plus tan square theta is going to give you sec square theta, square root of that is giving you sec theta, so 1 by sec theta is cos theta, right? So this value is nothing but 1 by, what is tan theta? X, right? So this becomes 1 by root over 1 plus x square. So your final expression, your function fx is nothing but, so your function fx turns out to be nothing but 1 by root over 1 plus x square, right? Which will give you the derivative f prime x as n, so minus 1 by 2, x to the power n minus 1, right? So that becomes 1 by 1 plus x square whole to the power 3 by 2 times the derivative of 1 plus x square, which is 2x, right? So this 2 and 2 cancels out. Ultimately, you have minus x by root over, or rather 1 plus x square whole to the power 3 by 2. Now you can clearly see the overall sign of this derivative is opposite the sign of what x takes, right? Okay? So if x is positive, this overall expression is going to be negative, and if x is negative, this overall expression is positive. If you look at the option, obviously if x is positive, then this overall expression becomes negative, which means the function is decreasing, right? So option A is definitely correct. The second option, is f decreasing for x negative? If x is negative, then this overall thing becomes positive, so f should have been increasing, right? So second one is incorrect. Obviously it can't be decreasing on entire r. Is f decreasing in the interval minus 1 to 1? No, that's also incorrect, right? So the only option that's correct is option A. Okay, cool. So that's question 4. So this could have been a question where you might have taken 1 or 1.5 minutes, because you also had to use inverse trigonometric functions and derivatives combined together, okay? But again, it wasn't a difficult question, okay? Very standard questions, okay? Coming to question 4, one of the easiest questions, sorry, question 5, one of the easiest. You have a 2 cross 2 determinant, right? What is the value of this determinant? It's going to be 3x minus 1 into 5, so that's 15x minus 5 minus minus 4, so that becomes plus 4, right? So this is the value of the determinant, right, which is, so the value of the determinant turns out to be 15x minus 1, and we want this value to lie in between, so it should be less than equal to 29, but strictly greater than minus 31, right? Which implies 15x, if I add 1 on both the sides, I'll get that this should be less than equal to 30 and strictly greater than minus 30. Now 15 is positive, so I can divide both the sides by 15. So x should be in between strictly greater than minus 2 and less than equal to plus 2. So where does x lie? X should lie in between, sorry, open minus 2, because it's strictly greater than minus 2, right? So x should lie in between minus 2 and plus 2 close, right, which is option A. Alright. Very, very simple questions, okay? So if you're a math student, you can't say that you got these questions wrong. You absolutely can't say this. This question, this was there in the 50 important questions. If you go and check, this is question 7 of the 50 important questions that we did, with slight variation, obviously. In math section, you can't expect you'll get the exact same question, but the idea was the same. We have done this question. Go and check 50 important questions of maths. This is question number 7 of that, okay? What do you do in this? So the basic idea is we know that z times z conjugate is mod z squared, right? Which implies that 1 by z can be written as z conjugate divided by mod z squared. This is the entire idea of this question, alright? Now from the first part, if the modulus of twice of z1 is 2, what is modulus of twice of z1 first of all? It's nothing but 2 times mod of z1. If this is equal to 2, we can directly say from here that mod of z1 is equal to 1. So what is 1 by z1 going to be? 1 by z1 turns out to be z1 conjugate divided by mod z1 square, which is 1, right? Coming to the second one, the modulus of this is equal to 2, which means what is 1 by z2 minus 1? It's going to be z2 minus 1 whole conjugate. Now conjugates of real numbers are the real numbers themselves, right? So it's just z2 conjugate minus 1 divided by mod of this thing squared, which is nothing but 4. The second equation. Same for the third one. Again I can say that z3 plus 1 is equal to z3 conjugate plus 1 divided by 4 again. Is this clear so far? Now coming to this expression, the modulus of this is equal to 2. That's given to us. Now what is this? This is nothing but 1 by z1 is z1 conjugate, 1 by z2 minus 1 is z2 conjugate minus 1 divided by 4, and the third one is z3 conjugate plus 1 divided by 4, and the modulus of this is equal to 2. That's given to us, yes or no? Now this, if we simplify, multiply by 4, you'll get 1 by 4 times 4z1 conjugate plus z2 conjugate minus 1 plus z3 conjugate plus 1 is equal to 2. The plus 1 and minus 1 cancels out. Now this entire thing is 1 by 4 times z1 plus z2 conjugate plus z3 conjugate, sorry, 4z1 conjugate, right? Now the modulus of the conjugate is always equal to the modulus of the complex number itself, right? So this is precisely the modulus of this quantity. And what is that going to be? This entire thing is 2. Send the 4 to the left hand side. What will you get? The modulus of this is equal to 8, right? Okay. So the answer is A. This is the exact idea we use, okay, to solve the question in the 50 important questions. If you haven't seen it, go and watch. If you haven't seen it, you'll feel bad because it was already done. But it's the exact same idea, okay? So we have already done this. Coming to question 7. Question 7 was slightly interesting, but if you have watched the rescue series or if you had paid attention in the class, we spent a lot of time teaching you how to do transformation of graphs, right, or just plot graphs in general. So you observe here, you have two different functions. First of all, you have modulus of x cube minus 3x times box x. So let's start off by plotting just x cube minus 3x. What is x cube minus 3x? It's x times x plus root 3 times x minus root 3. So if I plot this, what will I get? It should look something like this, right? You have minus root 3 here, you have 0 here, you have plus root 3 here, right? There's no undo button, right? One sec. Yeah. Something like this, right? Now when I take the modulus of this, what will I get? So everything that's negative goes upwards, right? So this becomes this 0, root 3 and this, right? So you have minus root 3 here, you have 0 here, you have plus root 3 here, right? So this is the graph of mod of x cube minus 3x. Now observe, you are multiplying by box of x, okay? And we know what the nature of box of x is, right? So if you look at this carefully, let's keep this graph in the screen because we need this. Between 0 and 1, for all the numbers in this interval between 0 and 1, we know box x is equal to 0. So over here, if you multiply mod of x cube minus 3x with box of x, in this entire interval you should end up with 0, yes or no? So over here you are getting 0, open at 1 obviously, right? At 1, box of x is equal to 1, right? So between 1 and, let's go with 2 and you have 1 root 3 here, right? So between 1 and root 3, box of x is equal to 1, right? So in this interval, box of x is equal to 1, which means the graph is going to behave the same way as this, right? So it starts off with, so 1 is somewhere around here, let's assume, right? So it will go something like this. And again, between root 3 and 2, box of x is still 1, right? So it's again going to follow the same graph, right? So it looks something like this. Fine? Now after 2, what happens between 2 and 3? Between 2 and 3, box of x is equal to 2, which, right? It's 2, which means the graph that you have. So 2 is somewhere around here, right? So starting from this entire graph gets multiplied by a scalar which is equal to 2, right? So it's going to shift upwards, right? Do you understand? So from here it's going to take a different value and go upwards, right? So there's going to be a discontinuity here. Fine. Same goes after 3. So between 3 and 4, the next time you multiply, you're going to multiply with a bigger number, right? So there's going to be a shift in the graph. So do you understand? After 2 at every integer point, you're going to get a point of discontinuity. Now if you look at the negative side, let's look at what happens between minus 1 and 0. So in this entire interval, box of x is equal to minus 1, right? Which means the graph is basically going to get multiplied by minus 1, which means it reverses its sign, right? So minus 1 is somewhere around here, let's say. So it's going to get multiplied by minus 1. So it comes down, right? So it was like this. So it's going to look something like this, okay? Again, it's a rough sketch. We don't really care too much about being super accurate. So it goes here, right? Now between minus 1 and root 3, sorry, minus 1 and minus root 3. Over here, box of x is equal to minus 2. Yes or no? Right? It's going to be minus 2, which means it's going to come downwards. Also, it gets multiplied by 2, right? Which means there's going to be a break in this graph after root 3. Yes or no? So root 3, it was 0. So this, it was 0. So it's going to look like something like this, right? Yes or no? Basically, all we care about is what are the points of discontinuity, right? So you can see that because of box, at every non-zero integer point, there is going to be a discontinuity in this graph. Yes or no? Does that make sense? At 0, we have a point of continuity, right? Because over here you can see it goes here and it continues the same way, right? So what is your final answer? It's discontinuous at every non-zero integer point, okay? Clear? Fine. So this might have been slightly tricky because you actually had to draw the graph. There were 2 steps. First you had to draw x cube minus 3x, then look at mod of it, then multiply it by box x, okay? So like 3 different steps. So slightly lengthy, you could have taken 2 or 3 minutes here, but one of the trickier questions in the entire paper. But again, we have done lots of questions like this where you had to draw these graphs, okay? If you had given the mocks, there were a lot of mocks where we had this question. You had questions like find the points of discontinuity of box x square minus, I think, x square or something like this, okay? We gave a lot of questions like this in the mocks, okay? Right. Coming to the next question, which is question 8. Again, very standard. We have done this multiple times. What are the different forms of tangent to a conic, right? Okay. So so first of all, let's convert this to a standard ellipse, right? This is going to look like x square by 4 plus y square. So 4y square. So y square by 1 by 4 is equal to 1. And what is the equation of a tangent at a point to a standard ellipse? It's xx1 by a square plus 5y1 by b square equal to 1, where x1 and y1 is this here. So if I plug this here, what is my tangent going to be? My tangent turns out to be x by 4 plus y times root 3 by 4 divided by 1 by 4 equal to 1. So this cancels out. Multiply this entire equation by 4, you get x plus y times 4 root 3 is equal to 1. So what is the slope of this line? What is the slope of the tangent? It's minus 1 by 4 root 3. Yes or no? I have to find an equation of a line which is perpendicular to this tangent, right? So if the line is perpendicular to this tangent, what is the slope of the line going to be? Slope of the line turns out to be just 4 root 3. And it passes through the point 2, 0. So y minus 0 is equal to m, x minus x1, so x minus 2. That's it, as simple as that. This is the easier approach. You could have also done this using the derivative, but that is slightly lengthier, it's slightly more complicated, okay? If you remember the general form of the tangent, it becomes way too easy, okay? Cool. And we have repeated this multiple times. Remember the different forms. We saw what? Tangent at the point, the parametric form. What is the condition for a line y equal to mx plus c to be tangent to a ellipse, right? So you have done all this. So it shouldn't have taken you more than not even 1 minute. 30-45 seconds max. Okay. Coming to question 9. Yep. The entire idea of question 9 was the fact that A cross B is nothing but minus of B cross A. Okay. That's all you had to use in this question. Observe that this vector is common on both the sides. Let's call it vector v. So you basically have that a cross v is equal to v cross b, which implies a cross v minus v cross b is equal to 0. You can transform this to a cross v plus b cross v is equal to 0, which implies a plus b cross vector v is equal to 0. Now, if the cross product of two vectors is 0, it means that these two vectors are either parallel or anti-parallel. In either case, the vector a plus b can be written as some scalar multiple of the second vector. Yes or no? Right? Now, what else is given to us? We know the magnitude of this vector a plus b. So, mod of a plus b, which is 15, should be equal to mod of lambda times mod of vector v, which is mod of lambda times what is the magnitude of this vector v? 3 square plus 4 square, that's 5 square, plus 5 square is 50. Square root of 50 is 5 root 2, which gives you the value of mod lambda as 3 by root 2. Okay, so we got our scalar, right? This lambda is nothing but plus or minus 3 by root 2. Okay, now you're looking for the the dot product of this a plus b vector with this vector, right? So a plus b, let's just write it as lambda times. What is a plus b going to be? So it's going to be 3 minus 4, 5, right? Dot, what is the other vector? It's 2, 3, 1, right? This turns out to be lambda times 3 to the 6 minus 12 plus 5, which is minus lambda. Now you're looking for the magnitude of this, right? So magnitude of this dot product is nothing but the magnitude of lambda. So this is equal to mod lambda. And what is mod lambda? 3 by root 2. The answer is A. That's it. Okay. Is this clear? Okay. So even a question that looks complicated is not. But in case you went off with assuming A to be some A1 I cap plus B2 J cap plus C2 or some C K cap and so on and so forth, then it would have been super lengthy and super messy. Okay. We do not want to approach that way. But if you do it this way, it's simple, 2 lines. Right. Again, question 10. This is a level that's even lower than boards. Okay, even boards don't ask these questions anymore. Find the derivative of this function with respect to this function. What is this going to be? D dx of log of sine square x divided by d dx of sine x, right? That's how you do this. Yes or no? This turns out to be 1 by sine square x times 2 sine x cos x divided by derivative of sine x is cos x, right? This and this cancel out, sine and sine cancel out, you get 2 by sine x, which is 2 cosec x, okay? If you could not do this question, I'm sorry, I don't have anything to say to you, really. Okay, this is one question which, this is a question even a class 11 student can do, like this is the first thing you learn in derivatives, okay? So, anyways, coming to question 11. Question 11. We have seen a lot of questions like this in our mocks and classes, right? In general, we have like Sn minus, what we give in general is some Sn plus 1 minus Sn, right? This is the typical form. They slightly made it a little more complicated because there is a gap of 3 here, right? Yes or no? So, what is Sn plus 3? Sn plus 3 is nothing but the sum of the first an plus 3 in terms, right? Minus, Sn is going to be sum of the numbers from a1 all the way till an. That difference is nothing but an plus 1 plus an plus 2 plus an plus 3, right? And that turns out to be 13n plus 7. Yes or no? This is what is given to you. This is the part that we'll be using. Now, if I put n equal to 10 in this, what will I get? I'll get a11 plus a12 plus a13 equal to 13 into 10 plus 7, right? And if I put n equal to 9, what will I get? I'll get a10, a11 and a12, that is equal to 13 into 9 plus 7. If I subtract these two equations, 12, 11 cancels out, you have a13 minus a10 equal to 7 and 7 cancel out, 13 into 10 minus 13 into 9 is just 13, so you get 13. Okay? So you can see these are all like 2-liner questions, okay? You don't even have to think a lot. This is the standard way you approach these questions, okay? There was no twist in any of the questions. The standard way we taught you, the standard way you approach all these questions, that's all you had to do in all these maths questions, okay? Cool? Right. Coming to question 12. Again, this is a question we have done a lot, okay? We have done more complicated forms of this. You have 5 fair coins which are tossed independently. What is the probability that at least 2 heads appear? So what is the probability that number of heads is greater than or equal to 2? It's nothing but 1 minus the probability that the number of heads is strictly less than 2. Now probability that the number of heads is strictly less than 2 is nothing but the number of heads is either equal to 0 or the number of heads is exactly equal to 1, right? These are the only two cases. If it has to be strictly less than 2, it's either going to be 0 or 1. Now probability number of heads is equal to 0 means you want all tails. What is the probability of that happening? Half times half, 5 times, right? So 1 by 2 to the power 5, which is 1 by 32. Probability number of heads is equal to 1. You have 5 tosses, right? You can choose which one gives you a head. So there are 5 ways in which you can choose that. And the probability of each of these events is 1 by 2, right? So this becomes 5 by 32. So that's 6 by 32, that's 3 by 16. Now this is 1 minus that, so that's 1 minus 3 by 16, so that's 13 by 16. That's it. Okay? So that's question 12. Coming to question 13. 13 again, another graphical question. You have a piecewise function, okay? What are the two functions given to you? First one is y equal to 2x, so it looks something like this. And the second graph is, what is this? X square minus 4x minus 5 is nothing but x minus 5 times x plus 1, right? So if there is minus 1 here, if there is 5 over here, it basically passes through these two and looks something like this, right? Now the point x equal to 1 lies somewhere around here, let's assume that, okay? So this is point x equal to 1 plus 1. So before 1, it looks like 2x, right? So till this point, this is the graph that you'll have, and after this you'll have this graph, right? So if I combine these two together, it should look something like this, yes or no? Till 1 it looks like 2x, and after this looks like this, right? So you can clearly see from this graph, this is going to be onto, right? Because all the values below this are attained by 2x, all the values after this are attained by the quadratic, right? Is it going to be 1, 1? No, right? Because in this brief interval, if you look at the horizontal line test, there are values which are repeated, right? So this is not 1, 1, but it's definitely onto, which is precisely option A. Okay? Clear? Cool? Okay. Coming to question 14, yeah. Linear differential equation. Mentioned it a multiple times in our classes that there are only a few forms. Remember how to solve each of these differential equations. And this is one of the easiest linear differential equations, right? Because you can just divide this entire thing by x square, you'll get dy by dx equal to 9y by x, sorry, plus. You'll get dy by dx plus 9y by x equal to x square. So final solution should look like y times, what is the integrating factor? E to the power 9 by x dx. That should be integral of x squared times the integrating factor, so 9 by x dx, right? Cool. What is e to the power 9 by x? This is basically y times e to the power 9 ln x equal to integral of x square e to the power 9 ln x dx, right? What is e to the power 9 ln x? It's nothing but x to the power 9, yes or no? We know how to switch base and the power, okay? If we have logarithm, we know this. So this gives you y times, this will be x to the power 9 equal to integral of x to the power 11 dx, x to the power 12 by 12 plus some constant, multiply by 12, what will you get? And divide by x to the power 9. You'll get 12y is equal to x cube plus 12c divided by x to the power 9. So this is the general solution, right? But in this case, you have to find a particular solution because the initial conditions are given to you. It's given that y is equal to 0 when x is equal to 1. So in this equation, if I put x equal to 1, y should be 0, which means 0 is equal to 1 plus 12c divided by 1, which implies the value of 12c is minus 1. Yes or no? Now if 12c is equal to minus 1, then this final solution turns out to be what? 12y is equal to x cube minus, so this numerator becomes minus 1, so minus 1 by x to the power 9. This is your particular solution for this differential equation, right? That is option A. As simple as that. Cool. Find this integral. Again, there are what, 5 or 6 different properties of definite integrals. We say that every question that comes from definite integral is going to be the application of one of these properties. What is the property you use here? The King's property, right? So this integral can be written as, so if I call this I, then I can again be written as pi minus x, because your integral is from 0 to pi minus x mod of cos x times sin x dx. Now if I add these two, if I add I with I, this minus x part cancels out, right? So you get that 2I is nothing but the integral pi times mod cos x sin x dx. Yes or no? Now the only problem is cos x changes its sign in this interval 0 to pi, right? So this can be broken down as two different integrals. So between 0 and pi by 2, we know that cos x is positive. So if you take out the mod, you'll just end up with this, right? So you get cos x sin x dx. But from pi by 2 all the way till pi, cos is negative. So you'll get minus cos x sin x, right? Now how do you integrate this? Just multiply and divide by 2. Yes or no? So your final integral should look like pi by 2 times integral 0 to pi by 2. If you multiply and divide by 2, this becomes sin 2x. Yes or no? Minus integral pi by 2 to pi sin 2x dx. Okay? Now what is the integral of sin 2x? Minus cos 2x by 2. Right? Yeah. So you get pi by 2 times minus cos 2x divided by 2 between 0 and pi. Sorry, 0 and pi by 2 minus, so minus I can take that outside, so you'll get cos 2x by 2 pi by 2 till pi. This is the value. Now if I actually solve this, this turns out to be pi by 2. Cos of pi by 2 is cos pi, which is minus 1, right? So minus becomes plus 1, minus cos of 0 is 1, right? So minus becomes plus again, so divided by 2, plus cos of 2 pi is again cos 0, so that's plus 1, right? Cos of pi is minus 1, so minus of minus 1 gives you plus 1 divided by 2. So that just turns out to be pi, right? And this is the value of 2I, right? So what is the value of I going to be? I is nothing but pi by 2. That's it. If I ignore that one question, the discontinuity question, box x times mod of x cube minus 3x, every other question should have been done by any math student in less than 2 minutes, okay? Less than 2 minutes. Every question was very standard. We have done questions like this. You didn't even have to think how to solve the questions, okay? So if you're a math student, I expect a 50 plus score from you, okay? That is the average score I'm expecting from you guys. If you're a PCM student, you should have gotten at least a 50 plus in this paper. Bio students, again, 7 to 8 questions were very simple. Even if you went through the major unimportant formulas, you still should have been able to do 8 to 9 questions, okay? So what? That's like 30, 35 marks easy. None of the questions were difficult. Like probability one was easy. If I ignore the graphical questions, let's ignore the 2 graphical questions, forget about them, okay? Probability was easy. Matrix determinant was easy. You just had to check whether it's symmetric. It was easy. What else? The determinant question, it's just a 2 cross 2 determinant, linear inequality. You can solve it, right? Which question was difficult? You tell me. Was there a single difficult question in this entire paper for maths? So now tell me what are the scores that you're expecting in the math section? What are the scores you're expecting in maths? Tell me. Right. But anyway, so math section was easier compared to the previous year, like I obviously said. So cutoffs are going to increase slightly. That's my guess, but you'll get a detailed video about like what the cutoffs might be, the general trend and so everything. You'll get a detailed video on that. But yep, so let's end it here. That will be it. Okay. Cool then. See you guys. पूछे ना कुछ और करना है एंड कर दूं